Chapter 475. You're looking for death. Under Bailey Hongzhuang's verbal attack, Ji Yun finally became angry. From childhood to adulthood, no one had ever dared to speak to her in such a tone. As for the so-called worthless, that was even more impossible. However, at this very moment, she was being insulted by a lowly commoner. How could she accept this and let everyone see her as a joke? The next moment, Ji Yun's body burst out, and a faint red light emerged from her hands. Looking at this faint red light, Xia Zhiqing and the others could not help but have a touch of horror in their eyes. Red Step. This is a special light that can only be possessed by Red Step cultivators. Cui Hao Yin exclaimed, his eyes full of incredible color. The cultivation realm was divided into the acquired realm and the innate realm. The two were completely different levels. Any cultivator, as long as they worked hard, could reach the acquired realm, but only the innate realm could truly embark on the path of cultivation. After a cultivator entered the innate realm, their power would change with the improvement of the realm. The innate realm was divided into red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple realms. Each level would flash a unique light. Each level was divided into 9 levels. The higher the level, the richer the color. Although the light on Ji Yun's hands was very faint, the red light still could not escape the eyes of everyone. Obviously, Ji Yun had reached the first level of the red realm. Gong Shaoqing and the others were very contemptuous of Ji Yun, but at this moment they knew the strength of Ji Yun. Ji Yun was only 16 or 17 years old, but her strength had reached the first level of the red realm. Compared with them, there was a big gap. Even if they had already known that the strength of cultivators would far surpass other cultivators, but without seeing it with their own eyes, they could not imagine this gap. After all, they were also many of the best cultivators. As the special enrollment students of Sanlan College, they had always been very proud. However, at this moment, they knew how big the gap between them was. With the passage of time, the gap between them and the children of the aristocratic families would become bigger and bigger. If there was no great opportunity, there would eventually be a huge gap between them. After all, the children of the aristocratic families were rich in cultivation resources. Even if their talent was average, under the accumulation of countless cultivation resources, they could become proud geniuses. This was the true difference between an ordinary person and a member of an aristocratic family. The children of aristocratic families were born with unlimited cultivation resources, but they had to rely on their own 2 hands to find opportunities. Seeing the shock on Bai Junyu and the others' faces, Ji Yun felt that these people were simply a group of ignorant country bumpkins. Her hand was extremely fast, and she did not hesitate to slap Bailey Hongzhuang's face. She hated this face the most. Her status and family background were clearly far superior to Bailey Hongzhuang's, but Bailey Hongzhuang's expression made it seem as if their statuses had been swapped. How hateful! Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with coldness as a silver light flashed between her fingers. She knew that her strength was not Ji Yun's opponent, but it did not mean that she had no way to deal with Ji Yun. Chapter 476. Just as Ji Yun's attack was about to fall on Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichun directly blocked Ji Yun's attack with one hand. With just a casual move, Ji Yun's attack dissipated into nothingness in an instant. The huge force made Ji Yun unable to help but take 2 steps back. She looked at Di Beichun with a bit of surprise. Ji Yun, if you dare to touch my wife, you will have to bear the consequences. Di Beichun's thin lips were lightly opened, and his cold voice was filled with a cold warning. His handsome face had no softness. If it was just a verbal conflict, he had always been very clear about how powerful his wife's mouth was. What's more, if it was not such a situation, how could Hongzhuang admit that she was his wife? Others did not know, but he knew that his wife was proud and domineering. Therefore, he had been standing aside and not speaking. But once Ji Yun made a move, the situation was completely different. Anyone who dared to hurt his wife, he would not let them go. As soon as these words came out, Ji Yun's heart was shocked. She and Di Beichun had a deep friendship. Now, for an ordinary person, He dared to say such decisive words to her? Di Gongzi, how can you do this to me? Ji Yun-er's eyes flashed with an unbelievable light. For Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichun did not even care about their previous friendship. Ji Gunyang, from the beginning to the end, my wife is just doing what she should do. Di Beichun's big hand held Bailey Hongzhuang, and his intention to protect her was obvious. Since Hongzhuang is my wife, she is naturally my person. Whoever dares to go against her is going against me. Di Beichun's voice was firm and decisive, without the slightest hesitation. Obviously, no matter who it was, there would be no accident. In the past 3 years, he had experienced too much human coldness and warmth. The people he cared about most would never be bullied by anyone. Yanling Xian and the others were secretly speechless. It seemed that they had underestimated the extent to which Di Beichun cared about Bailey Hongzhuang. In particular, Huang Fu Hui and Yanling Xian felt it more clearly. As men, the meaning of Di Beichun's words was obvious. Previously, they only thought that Di Beichun had taken a fancy to Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance. Now, it seemed that Di Beichun really liked Bailey Hongzhuang. They were very Di Beichun's power. Since the beginning, they had been to calculate the benefits to them to do things to do, to do things to do things to do. The only thing to make them willing to give up their interests was nothing else. Obviously, his two's attitude to be to say, to say, to be to do, to be, to be. Domineering. Xiaohei clapped her hands. I really didn't misread Di Beichun. What is this woman? Our master has only been cultivating for a short period of a year. This woman has been cultivating for more than 10 years. What is there to be proud of? Xiaobai snorted. Speaking of geniuses, their master was a well-deserved genius. If you continue to be long-winded, I will bite her to death. Baisher's eyes flashed with a cold light. If she dared to kill his master, she would have to go through him first. Ji Yin-er's face was livid. Di Beichun's words made her have no room to speak, but the unwillingness in her heart was still screaming crazily. Chapter 477. What about Han Xiling? Ji Yin-er asked. If Han Xiling is also against Bailey Hongzhuang, will you teach Han Xiling a lesson? Ji Yin-er's face was full of jealousy. Since Di Beichun had already torn her face, she did not mind being more ruthless. In any case, she could not let Bailey Hongzhuang be so proud. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere was frozen for a moment. Xia Zhiqing and the others looked at Ji Yun-er and Di Beichun in confusion. They did not understand what Ji Yun meant by this sentence. Who was Han Xiling? The faces of Yanling Xian and the others also became interesting. As everyone knew, before the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang, Han Xiling was the only woman who had a close relationship with Di Beichun. They were really curious about how Di Beichun would choose between the two. Di Beichun's eyes were fixed, and his handsome face was even colder. He looked at Ji Yun-er's eyes without any warmth, but he did not answer. Noticing the change in Di Beichun's expression, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes also showed a hint of doubt. Han Xiling, this was the first time she had heard this name. Could it be? What was the story between Di Beichun and Han Xiling? At the thought of this, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was inexplicably blocked. An inexplicable feeling spread, and her mood was quietly depressed. At this moment, a pleasant and smiling voice sounded from midair. I seem to have heard everyone say my name. Everyone couldn't help but look up in the air. They saw a woman in a green dress sitting on a green lotus. Her hair was flowing and her clothes were fluttering. Her beautiful face was filled with a shallow smile. Just like the green lotus she was sitting on, her whole person exuded the elegant temperament of a green lotus. Compared with Ji Yun-er's disdain, the woman in the blue dress looked a lot warmer. At first glance, she gave people a comfortable feeling. Although her appearance couldn't be compared to Bailey Hongzhuang, her temperament was enough to add a lot of points to her. Miss Han, I didn't expect you to come as well. Yanling Xian quickly greeted her. He put away his playful attitude, and there was no lack of admiration in his eyes. Han Xiling was also quite famous among the younger generation. There were countless men pursuing her, but Han Shilling had never been interested in other men. Only Di Bei-chun was different. Han Shilling smiled faintly. Since Big Brother D is here, I naturally have to come. As soon as he finished speaking, Han Shilling's gaze fell on Di Bei-chun. His intimacy was obvious. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Han Shilling, who was slowly walking towards Di Bei-chun. This woman's temperament and strength were good. From the attitude of Yanling Xian and others, it could be seen that the relationship between Di Bei-chun and Han Shilling was not simple. Sure enough, there was a story between the two. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes gradually changed. Di Bei-chun's silence made her heart that was originally open quietly closed a little. Ji Yun said Han Shilling's name in that situation. Obviously, Han Shilling's position in Di Bei-chun's mind was quite high. Moreover, so many people knew the relationship between Han Shilling and Di Bei-chun. It could be seen that this was already a well-known thing. At the thought of this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but take a step back, opening the distance between her and Di Bei-chun. No matter how others provoke her, she wouldn't care. The only thing she cared about was Di Bei-chun's attitude. Chapter 478. Feeling Bailey Hongzhuang's action, Di Bei-chun looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, his eyes flashing with a firm light, and his figure once again approached Bailey Hongzhuang. Di Bei-chun's action did not escape the eyes of everyone, and the eyes of Ji Yun and the others were once again filled with astonishment. In the face of Han Shilling, Di Bei-chun still stood beside Bailey Hongzhuang. It could be seen that in Di Bei-chun's heart, Bailey Hongzhuang's position was stronger than Han Shilling's. At the thought of this, everyone's heart had a feeling of disbelief. Who was this Bailey Hongzhuang? How could she make Di Bei-chun give up Han Shilling? Han Shilling, as if he had not seen anything, still had an elegant smile on his face, and slowly walked to Di Bei-chun's side. Big Brother D, I guess that you would be here after hearing the news of the Luo Yun mountain range. And you really are here. Han Shilling chuckled. Ta, ta, ta. A dense sound of footsteps came into everyone's ears, and behind them, a large number of cultivators were approaching the center. Our people are here. Huang Fu Hui smiled. Each of their families came with a lot of people, but they came first, and the others came later. Young master. Young miss. Sure enough, there was a respectful voice coming from behind. These were the people of the four families. Ji Yun looked provocatively at Bailey Hongzhuang, and then said to her family, "You find a place to rest first." Yes, not only the Ji family, but the other three families also settled down, and everyone was curious about the ruins that were about to appear. I just so happened to be in the vicinity recently, so I rushed over after hearing the news. I'm afraid the people from the sect will be a little late. Han Shilling looked at Di Bei-chun with a smile. From the beginning to the end, his eyes never fell on Bailey Hongzhuang, as if there was no Bailey Hongzhuang beside Di Bei-chun. Di Bei-chun nodded slightly. Since you came here in a hurry, you should rest first. Han Shilling's lips curled up slightly. Big Brother D, when do you plan to return to the sect? Although you're not here, many people miss you. I'm not going back for the time being, Di Bei-chun replied. Han Shilling frowned slightly. You're not in the sect, and I'm really lonely. It's better for you to come back soon. The light words were full of intimacy. Everyone listened to Han Shilling's words and looked at Han Shilling and Di Bei-chun with ambiguous eyes. Who is this Han Shilling? How can he be so close to Di Bei-chun? Xiao Zhiqing's eyes were full of resentment. Previously, she had clearly noticed that Di Bei-chun didn't care about any woman except for Hongzhuang. However, the woman who suddenly appeared now was also an exception. Listening to them, Han Shilling should be from the same sect as Di Bei-chun. By June, you said slowly. Now that so many cultivators had suddenly emerged, their situation was undoubtedly a lot worse. Not to mention that they had a deep foundation. In comparison, they were much more humble. Xiao Bai, why do I feel that this woman is more annoying than Ji Yun Xiao Hei's eyes flashed with displeasure. Ji Yun was undoubtedly very annoying, and her words were harsh and excessive. Han Shilling had never said anything unpleasant from beginning to end, but she was even more uncomfortable with Han Shilling. Chapter 479. Xiao Bai's face was a bit ugly. This woman's character was not good, but so far, she had never looked at her master. Listening to Xiao Bai's words, Xiao Hei understood. Yes, that's it. She was wondering why she was so unhappy with Han Shieling. It turned out that this was the problem. Bai Shi's eyes narrowed slightly. He had met a lot of annoying people today. Ji Yun was annoying, and this Han Shieling was even more annoying. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. From the first time she saw Han Shieling, she knew that this woman was not elegant like a lotus, but the arrogance in her bones made her look down on most people. It was precisely because she looked down on others that she did not put them in her eyes. This kind of temperament was not uncommon in some proud women. Obviously, there was still a certain gap between the identity of Ji Yun and Han Shieling. It was precisely because of this that Ji Yun was so restless, and Han Shieling had nothing but contempt. Since it was between Han Shieling and Di Beichan, it did not make any sense for her to stand aside. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang directly stepped forward and wanted to walk back to the team. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang took a step forward, Di Beichan suddenly took her hand and did not let her leave. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned and looked at Di Beichan with a little doubt. Di Beichan smiled gently at her. I came out this time to see the person I miss. Di Beichan said slowly. Han Shieling, who had been pretending to be indifferent, heard Di Beichan's words, and his calm face could not help but show a different color. The person you want to see? Di Beichan nodded slightly and pulled Bailey Hongzhuang to his side. He smiled and said, "This is my wife, Bailey Hongzhuang." Han Shieling's eyes flashed a trace of haze. She did not expect that Di Beichan would still emphasize the identity of Bailey Hongzhuang in such a situation. However, Han Shiling's face was still calm, and he just looked at Bailey Hongzhuang faintly. "Wifey, this is my junior sister, Han Shieling." Di Beichan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with gentle eyes. The distance between him and his wife was not easy to get closer, and he did not want to return to the starting point because of such a thing. Ji Yun-er's eyes widened. "No." In front of Han Shieling, Di Beichan actually said that? In my opinion, Di Beichan really likes Bailey Hongzhuang. Lin Yirou's lips curved into a shallow smile. Han Shieling is naturally impeccable, but in the eyes of lovers, this may not be the case. What's more, don't you think that Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance and temperament are better than Han Shieling's? As soon as these words came out, although the faces of Ji Yun-er and the other two changed, they had to admit that what Lin Yirou said was true. If Bailey Hongzhuang did not say that she was a civilian, no one would dare to look down on her because of her appearance and temperament. This Bailey Hongzhuang should not be an ordinary person. Huangfu Hui's expression was indifferent, and the corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile. Appearance is innate, but temperament is nurtured. Have you seen anyone with such temperament in an ordinary family? Lin Yirou nodded slightly. Huangfu Hui's idea was the same as hers. If it was an ordinary person, they would not have such courage in the face of them. They would have already lost their courage. How could they let Ji Yun suffer? Chapter 480. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart, which was originally slightly blocked, quietly improved with Di Beichan's words. She didn't know what the story was between Di Beichan and Han Shieling, but since Di Beichan dared to introduce her like this, it proved that the relationship between the two of them was still open and above board. "Hello." Han Shieling took the lead in speaking, her pair of warm eyes flashing with a complex light. "Hello." Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. She did not ignore the cold light flashing in Han Shieling's eyes. This Han Shieling was definitely not the elegant lotus that everyone thought. She was afraid that she was also a ruthless person. However, she had never been afraid of threats. The two women stood face to face, their mouths saying polite words, but anyone could feel the icy atmosphere between the two. Xia Zhiqing and the others quietly breathed a sigh of relief. No matter who this Han Shieling was, at least Di Beichan's attitude was very clear. As a result, they could also rest assured. "The monument is about to open. Let's take a rest first," Di Beichan said faintly. After showing a smile to Han Shieling, he took Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and walked back to the team. Han Shiling's eyes were tightly fixed on Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. She had known Big Brother Di for so many years, but Big Brother Di had never been so close to other women and had never left her alone. Now, with the appearance of this woman, all of this changed. Yin Ling Xian and the others looked at each other. They were all silent. Today's good show was really wonderful. Ji Yin who was originally very ugly, felt a little better at the moment. Since even Han Shiling was defeated, then it was nothing for her to be defeated. Bailey Hongzhuang sat on the ground. There was no expression on her beautiful and refined face. She just didn't say a word. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's expression. He understood that the matter just now had made Bailey Hongzhuang quite unhappy, so he immediately explained. Wifey, don't misunderstand. Bailey Hongzhuang raised an eyebrow. Misunderstanding. So many people were watching. Di Beichen actually said that this was just a misunderstanding. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was a little unhappy, Di Beichen couldn't help but be anxious. But in the next second, Di Beichen's eyes suddenly filled with a deep smile. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows slightly wrinkled. At this moment, Di Beichen was still looking at her and smiling. What are you smiling at me for? Bailey Hongzhuang asked coldly. Di Beichen chuckled. Wifey, are you jealous? As soon as his voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but be stunned. Was she jealous? Huh, I'm jealous. Xiaohei snickered. Wasn't Master's expression showing that he was jealous? Of course, Bailey Hongzhuang would never admit to this kind of thing. I'm not. Seeing this, Di Beichen didn't expose Bailey Hongzhuang's cover-up. He only held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand tightly with both hands and slowly told his story. I've lived in the sect since I was young. It was Master who raised me single-handedly. Han Shiling is the great elder's granddaughter. We grew up together, so we have a very good relationship. Don't think too much. I only see Han Shiling as a younger sister. As for the feelings between a man and a woman, I only have you in my heart. Di Beichen gazed into Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, his handsome eyes filled with sincerity and deep affection. He had never truly fallen in love with any woman. Until Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, that was the first time he felt his heart move. Chapter 481. If he had not suddenly become a waste, how could he have come to Fengbo country from a sect? 3 years of forbearance. He had hated, grieved, and indignant. But now, he felt that all of this was his life. 3 years of abject poverty made him see the true colors of many people around him. It made his original arrogance dissipate, and he became more mature and tenacious. The most important thing was that when he was down and out, Bailey Hongzhuang appeared by his side. Perhaps all of this was destined by God. He stood up because of Bailey Hongzhuang, and Bailey Hongzhuang became his wife by chance. He thanked God for all of this and wanted to protect Bailey Hongzhuang. Listening to Di Beichen's explanation, Bailey Hongzhuang's mood gradually improved. She believed Di Beichen's words. If Di Beichen liked Han Shiling, he did not need to come to her. Wife, do you believe me? Seeing the change in Bailey Hongzhuang's expression, Di Beichen asked with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang curled her lips, and the corners of her eyes were gradually dyed with a smile. Although she did not speak, Di Beichen already understood everything. Wife, do you want to know my story? Di Beichen asked. He had not said before, not because he did not want to say, but because he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang might not be willing to listen. Now that their relationship had improved, he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang could understand more and avoid a lot of misunderstandings in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. How did you live before? Di Beichen slowly looked forward, and his eyes were distant and slightly emotional. From Di Beichen's narration, Bailey Hongzhuang understood Di Beichen's identity. It turned out that Di Beichen was a disciple of Tiangang's sect, and his master, Mo Kanyang, was the sect leader of Tiangang's sect. Mo Kanyang had never had a son, so he had always treated Di Beichen as his son. He had taught Di Beichen everything he had learned. Di Beichen's talent was also very outstanding. Since he started cultivating, he had never disappointed Mo Kanyang. Faintly, everyone regarded Di Beichen as the successor of Tiangang's sect. In the sect, other than the sect master, there were 4 elders. Each elder had a disciple that they were proud of. Since the establishment of Tiangang's sect, there had been a habit. Regarding the position of young sect master, it would be selected from the disciples that the sect master and the 4 elders were proud of. Whoever was the strongest would be the young sect master. This method was to avoid less competition, and a successor would have less motivation to work hard. Only through competition could the strongest be born. This was also the best way for a sect to maintain its strength. A few years ago, Mo Qinyang left Tiangang's sect in order to seek a breakthrough. This was a very normal thing. Not only Mo Qinyang, but the sect masters of other sects and some old family heads would also often go out to seek opportunities to break through. At their age, it was no longer easy for them to break through. Therefore, it often took a long time for them to do so. After Mo Qinyang left for a period of time, Di Beichen's cursed body began to show, and the other competitors wanted to take this opportunity to get rid of him. Originally, he could still resist, but after he could no longer stand up, the people in the sect who supported him became fewer and fewer. In the end, he could only come to Fengbo country. Chapter 482. It was precisely because of his identity that Xian Yuanyu had given him the title of prince. As for the illegitimate child, it was complete nonsense. During the 3 years of his forbearance, Xian Yuanhuan and the others made things difficult for him everywhere. But he had been enduring, not because of anything else, but because someone had been watching his every move. Once he showed his ability, there would be people who would be quick to get rid of him. In the sect, no one dared to do this, but after leaving the sect, there were more opportunities for them to make a move. Since he stood up again, he had returned to the sect. As long as he was not a useless waste, then he was still the original successor. In the past, he was recognized as the young lord of Tiangang Zone. Although a lot of things happened later, as long as he stood up, it would not be difficult for him to return to his previous position. Now, Mo Qinyang still had not returned, but Di Beichun still returned to his original position. However, this time when he returned to Tiangang Zone, his feeling was completely different from the past. He had lived in Tiangang Zone since he was a child and had a lot of friends around him, but since he became a disabled person with no future, his friends not only did not help him, but also stepped on him fiercely. Therefore, he now felt that the changes in the past 3 years had benefited him a lot. If he had not taken advantage of this opportunity to see the people around him, he would not have known that there were so many people around him. As for Ji Yun'er, she used to like to follow behind him. Although he did not like Ji Yun'er, she was a friend who he had seen many times. He also remained polite to her, and Ji Yun had already expressed her love for him. 3 years ago, after he became disabled, Ji Yun did not say a word to him. For such a woman, why should he talk to her? After listening to Di Beichen's narrative, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were stained with a trace of distress. Although Di Beichen said it simply, she understood what kind of state Di Beichen had been in the past 3 years. She was afraid that it was not much different from being betrayed. From a genius that everyone looked up to a waste that everyone trampled on. If the psychological quality was not strong enough, it would be really over. What about Han Shilling? Her clear eyes flashed with wisdom. She didn't give up on you during these 3 years, did she? Di Beichen took a deep look at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "Yes, if it weren't for Han Shilling helping me secretly in the past 3 years, my life would have been much worse." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. She understood why Di Beichen treated Han Shilling that way. Han Shilling had never given up on him. This kind of friendship was no different from sending charcoal in snowy weather, but anyone with flesh and blood could not turn a blind eye to it. Come to think of it, Di Beichen already knew about Han Shilling's feelings for him. He just didn't want to hurt Han Shilling. "Understand," Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. "Believe me, I will take care of this matter." Di Beichen's eyes flashed with seriousness. He and Han Shilling grew up together. He did not want to destroy the friendship between them, but he did not want to hurt Bailey Hongzhuang, because Bailey Hongzhuang was his most important person. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "I believe you." She didn't care about anything else. What she cared about was Di Beichen's feelings for her. Chapter 483. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Beichen also breathed a sigh of relief. What he was most worried about was that Hong Zhuang would take this matter to heart. Fortunately, Hong Zhuang was not like this. He really should find time to solve this matter. He has always been a straightforward person, never dragging his feet. He also didn't want to delay Han Xiling. Big Brother D, I have something to tell you. After Han Xiling saw Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Beichun sitting together and talking very closely, a touch of coldness appeared on her elegant face. She didn't know who this woman who suddenly appeared was, but as long as she dared to steal her big brother D, she would not let her go. Di Beichun looked at Han Xiling, who suddenly appeared in front of him. He thought for a moment and nodded. Okay. Getting up neatly, Di Beichun said to Bailey Hong Zhuang, Wife, I'll be back in a while. You go. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled. Han Xiling looked at Bailey Hong Zhuang with a complicated and deep look, and then walked away with Di Beichun. Seeing this, Xia Jiqing went to Bailey Hong Zhuang's side, her face showing a little anxiety. Hong Zhuang, are you relieved to let the two of them talk? What do I have to be worried about? Bailey Hong Zhuang's mouth curved into a smile, her expression calm and natural. This Han Xiling likes Di Beichun at first glance. She's your big rival. How can you be so calm? Di Beichun is your husband. You must not let others take him away. Although Han Xiling's disguise is very successful, she can't escape my eyes. She is definitely a white lotus. Xia Jiqing's face was filled with a self-assured light. She had always been very confident in her vision. Looking at Xia Jiqing's unjust appearance, Bailey Hong Zhuang's smile gradually deepened, but there was a trace of warmth in her heart. Jiqing, thank you. I'm your good friend. Naturally, I'm on your side. Xia Jiqing said seriously. However, are you really relieved? I think this Han Xiling is a formidable opponent. Bailey Hong Zhuang shook her head with a faint smile. If he could be snatched away so easily, how could he be qualified to be my man, Bailey Hong Zhuang? She would rather go without than have something substandard. If Di Beichun was really snatched away, then she could only thank Han Xiling. She, Bailey Hong Zhuang's man, must only have her in his heart and in his eyes. That was the love she wanted. Han Xiling was arrogant, but the pride in Bailey Hong Zhuang's heart was no less than her. Listening to Bailey Hong Zhuang's words, Xia Jiqing could not help but be stunned. Then she gave a thumbs up. You're right. I support you. She really did not expect Hong Zhuang's heart to be so strong. However, after thinking about it carefully, Hong Zhuang was right. With Hong Zhuang's conditions, what kind of man couldn't she find? However, I still believe that Di Beichun is sincere to you. Xia Jiqing blinked and smiled. He said that you were his wife in front of Han Xiling. It can be seen that he has a clear conscience. In my opinion, Han Xiling may be heartbroken now. Hearing this, Bailey Hong Zhuang's lips curved into a smile. Her eyes were cold and distant. This Han Xiling was not a problem that was easy to solve. In the woods, Han Xiling and Di Beichun stood opposite each other. Big Brother D, you just reconsolidated your position in the sect and then immediately left. This is very disadvantageous to your position. Chapter 484. It doesn't matter. As long as I'm no longer that cripple who can't stand up anymore, they won't be able to do anything to me. Di Beichun's expression was indifferent and carefree. 3 years was enough for him to think through many things. The things that were originally very important to him were no longer important now. But, without waiting for Han Xiling to speak, Di Beichun had already interrupted her. Say no more. I've already decided. Then, you've really decided to be together with that girl? She's just an ordinary daughter of the general's estate. There's an insurmountable gap between the two of you. You're not compatible at all. At this moment, Han Xiling no longer concealed her inner thoughts. She simply couldn't believe that Di Beichun would actually fall in love with such an ordinary girl. What's compatible and what's not compatible? Di Beichun retorted. In my heart, she's the best. No one could understand the position Bailey Hong Zhuang had in his heart. For more than 10 years, he had never felt his heart move for any girl. However, the moment he saw Bailey Hong Zhuang, his heart moved. She was such a cunning and kind girl. Her tenacity, effort, and determination were all clearly imprinted in his eyes. He had never had any feelings for her before, but Bailey Hongzhuang was willing to risk her life to save him. So far, he felt that the only thing that Xian Yuan Yutian had done wrong was to bestow a marriage between him and Bailey Hongzhuang. In fact, even if Xian Yuan Yutian hadn't bestowed a marriage, he would have done everything he could to make Bailey Hongzhuang his wife, because he had her in his heart. Once he had Bailey Hongzhuang in his heart, no one could ever replace Bailey Hongzhuang's position. She was the best in his heart. Seeing Di Beichun so determined, Han Shiling's expression turned ugly. Even if the sovereign returns, he won't agree to it. Di Beichun shook his head. I believe that master will support me. Just as Di Beichun was about to leave, Han Shiling suddenly asked, "What about me?" Di Beichun paused and slowly turned around. "Brother Di, you know how I feel about you. Am I not as good as Bailey Hongzhuang in your heart?" Han Shiling questioned. She had liked Di Beichun since she was a child. Although Di Beichun had never said that he liked her, Di Beichun had never had any woman by his side. Therefore, she always believed that as long as she stayed by Di Beichun's side, Di Beichun would definitely fall in love with her. Di Beichun had only left for 3 years, but everything had changed. Could it be that her more than 10 years of companionship with Di Beichun was not as good as Bailey Hongzhuang in such a short time? "Shiling, I have always regarded you as a sister, you know that." Di Beichun's voice was low and serious. "The person I love is Hongzhuang. This is a completely different feeling." As soon as these words came out, Han Shiling's face could not help but turn pale, and her beautiful eyes were full of hurt. She could not believe that Di Beichun would say such a thing to her so decisively. "I don't want to waste your time, Shiling. You will always be my sister. As for this feeling, you don't have to put it on me," Di Beichun said seriously. He did not want to be vague about this matter, otherwise it would be unfair to Hongzhuang and Shiling. Chapter 485. Big Brother Di, it's easy for you to say. I've liked you for so many years. How can I let it go so easily? Han Shiling's face was hurt, and her eyes were already faintly sparkling. You'll let it go one day. It's good for you that I don't go back to the sect for a while. Di Beichun did not change because of Han Shiling's tear-stained face. He understood that not being heartless now was the real cruelty. Only being heartless could completely cut off Han Shiling's thoughts. After Han Shiling recovered, they might be able to be brother and sister. As soon as his voice fell, Di Beichun no longer said anything. He turned around and walked away. He felt sorry for Han Shiling, but there was nothing he could do. Any words of comfort were pale. Han Shiling looked at Di Beichun's resolute back and felt an indescribable pain in her heart. Her eyes could not help but be stained with a touch of resentment. For so many years, she had always been a proud woman in everyone's eyes. Many young men admired her, but she disdained them. The only one she liked was Di Beichun. But now, a woman who had appeared out of nowhere had destroyed her yearning for him. How could she give up just like that? No, she would never admit defeat like this. How could she be defeated by a woman who was nothing? Han Shiling's eyes gradually became firm. She believed that Big Brother Di was only temporarily blinded by Bailey Hongzhuang. It would not be long before Big Brother Di came to his senses. At that time, she and Big Brother Di would still be the best match made in heaven. When the crowd saw Di Beichun come back first, their eyes changed a little. The smart people had almost guessed the conversation between Di Beichun and Han Shiling. I didn't expect that Han Shiling, who has always been arrogant, would be defeated by an ordinary girl. It's really satisfying. Lin Yirou's mouth evoked a shallow smile. She had always disapproved of Han Shiling. Now, she was happy to see this scene. Lin Yirou, it doesn't seem very good for you to gloat like this. Yen Ling Xian frowned. Don't you like Han Shiling? Lin Yirou smiled. You should be the happiest in this situation. Hearing this, Yen Ling Xian's face changed a little. In fact, this situation was indeed a good thing for him. With Han Shiling's temperament, giving up like this should not be in line with her style. Huangfu Hui's eyes flashed with wisdom. This Bailey Hongzhuang, I'm afraid she'll be in trouble. This woman deserves to die. As the young miss of the Ji family and a disciple of the sect, she had never suffered such a great loss before. In any case, This account can't be settled like this. Lin Yiro looked at Ji Yun with a smile. Di Beichun obviously wants to protect Bailey Hongzhuang to the end. Do you want to offend Di Beichun because of Bailey Hongzhuang? You should think about it in your heart. Saying this, Lin Yiro's eyes could not help but fall on Bailey Hongzhuang. Although she did not know how Bailey Hongzhuang made Di Beichun loyal to her, she really admired Bailey Hongzhuang. A girl from an ordinary family could make Han Xiling and Ji Yun suffer. This was not a realm that ordinary people could reach. It was really interesting. If there was a chance, it would be a good choice to get to know her. Chapter 486. Di Beichun sat down next to Bailey Hongzhuang. His handsome and bright face had an evil smile. Isn't my wife curious about what I just said to Xiling? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. Her beautiful face outlined an enchanting smile and asked, "Do you want to say it?" Without her asking, Xiao He and Xiao Bai couldn't help but join the fun. These two guys were simply curious babies. Di Beichun smiled brightly. His wife was really different from ordinary women. He grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and said softly, "I have already made it clear to Xiling. Maybe Xiling still needs some time. My wife just needs to believe in me." Bailey Hongzhuang squinted at Di Beichun. This guy's performance just now made her very satisfied. What she hated most was that men were ambiguous on this kind of thing, and their attitude was vague. Di Beichun could be so decisive. She also felt happy. As for Han Xiling's reaction, Xiao He and Xiao Bai had already told her that the contradiction between her and Han Xiling had just begun. As a man, Di Beichun would not understand how fierce the battle between women was, especially some battles without gunpowder, which was even more chilling. However, she was not afraid. After this, everyone closed their eyes to rest and adjusted their breath. Tomorrow, the ancient monument would be completely revealed. They must adjust their state to the best to face the challenge of the monument in the best state. There were many treasures in the ancient monument, but there were also many dangers. If they were not careful, they would lose their lives inside. Not only that, so many competitors around were already a huge threat. Once there was a robbery of treasures, it was also a bloody struggle. With Bailey Hongzhuang's current cultivation, there was also a lot of risk in front of this monument. Her only chance of winning was her understanding of the monument. As night fell, so many cultivators gathered here, but it was quiet. Only the constant roar of beasts in the monument shook the earth, stimulating everyone's bones. "Baisher, do you know what the guardian beast here is?" Xiao He asked. "This guy is too noisy." Baisher nodded. "It should be the Qing Tian Mo alligator here." As more and more memories were passed down, it also had a better understanding of monsters, and from this sound, it could judge the identity of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Hearing the name of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, Bailey Hongzhuang's face could not help but change a little. The Qing Tian Mo alligator is comparable to a human cultivator of the Huang realm. Plus, this one has guarded the ancient monument for so many years. Its strength is much stronger than the general Qing Tian Mo. I didn't expect there to be a guy like the Qing Tian Mo alligator here. That would be troublesome. Xiao He's face was dignified. Not to mention the mechanisms and tests in the monument. Just the Qing Tian Mo alligator alone was not easy to pass. "Baisher, can you suppress the Qing Tian Mo alligator?" Xiao He asked. No matter what, Baisher was the Beast King. Baisher was a little depressed. "My strength is still too weak now. I can only use my breath to suppress the Qing Tian Mo alligator, but I should be able to suppress it for a while." Chapter 487. Don't worry, there's so many people here. If it doesn't work, we'll go. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips were slightly hooked. There are so many resources around. If they didn't use them, wouldn't it be a waste? The people of the four great families must be more eager to enter the monument. Once the Qing Tian Mo alligator came out, they would definitely take the lead to attack. After all, they absolutely could not count on the students of Songlan College, who were just lucky enough to pass through the miasma. Although Songlan College was quite famous, they were only students of Songlan College. At most, they were just potential stocks. In a short time, they were not enough to be independent. Master is right. Let these guys consume some strength first. Otherwise, aren't we at a disadvantage? Xiao Hei's eyes flashed with a cunning light. It was very important to make the best use of everything. If the sky falls, the tall people will hold it up. We just have to sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor. Xiao Bai smiled proudly. They had to save their strength until the end. Bai Shi blinked and looked at the group of old foxes in front of him. He had to admit that their idea was really good. Lu Huayin and Fu Hongbo gathered Bailey Hongzhuang and others together. The faces of the two mentors were dignified. If we expect it, the monument will open tomorrow. This is an opportunity that comes with risk. You might obtain an opportunity and improve, or you might die. No one can be certain of the outcome. Lu Huayin said in a low voice, "You have to think carefully before you decide. Even with my strength, I can't guarantee that I'll be safe. The only thing I can hope for is that the test inside won't be too cruel." Listening to this, everyone's faces were heavy and worried. They were all seeing the monument for the first time. Everything they knew was just hearsay. Even from the news they heard, they knew that many cultivators would fall on the monument every time. The only fortunate thing was that because of the miasma, there would not be too many competitors. In addition to the tests and mechanisms arranged in the monument, the people of other forces cannot be ignored. It is inevitable to fight for the treasure. Fu Hongbo sighed. With the strength of the students, it was too difficult to compete for the treasure in this monument. The cultivators of the four great families in Tiangang Zone were not simple. Especially the conflict between Jian and Bailey Hongzhuang was very fierce. Once the two met in the ruins, Bailey Hongzhuang would be in a very bad situation. Unfortunately, no one was willing to give up when faced with such a fortuitous encounter. Even if this hope was very slim, it was that tiny possibility that exuded an unparalleled attraction. Think about it carefully. If you don't have the confidence, don't enter the ruins. Fu Hongbao's eyes were full of seriousness. I have already informed the Academy of this news. You will definitely be able to return safely. You should know that you are all extremely talented young people. As long as you cultivate well, you will also be able to achieve good results in the future. Fu Hongbao and Lu Huayan's mood at this moment was very complicated. On one hand, they felt that it was a pity for everyone to give up this opportunity. On the other hand, as mentors, they didn't want to see their own students get hurt. As for the final decision, they could only leave it to the students themselves. Chapter 488. Lu Qingyue was the most hesitant. Her master had told her a long time ago that her talent in cultivation was not comparable to alchemy. This was not because her talent for cultivation was not good, but because she lacked the courage of a cultivator to press forward courageously. Although she had never put down her cultivation, she still put most of her energy into practicing alchemy. Originally, she did not pay much attention to her master's words, but since the appearance of Yi Hu Cheng, she increasingly understood her master's vision. Her strength was clearly not lower than Bailey Hongzhuang, but she needed Bailey Hongzhuang to save her. This point alone had already proved her problem. She was naturally full of interest in the ruins, but when she thought of the dangers inside, she had no confidence. In this case, would she still go? After Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu pondered for a moment, the firmness in their eyes became more and more obvious. This kind of opportunity was rare. Once missed, they might not encounter a second time in their life. If they gave up just because their current cultivation was not strong enough, they would definitely regret it in the future. Cui Haoyin, Zhang Yunfeng, Bai Junyu, and Xia Zhiqing also made a decision after struggling. People should never regret it in their life. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression had never changed from beginning to end. For this kind of thing that could only be encountered by chance, if she gave up, it was not her style. Di Beichun was even more so. He was happy to see such an opportunity. So how could he give up because of some danger? After everyone had made a decision, Lu Qingyue suddenly said, "I have decided to go back to the academy." Hearing Lu Qingyue's words, everyone was stunned at first, but soon understood Lu Qingyue's idea. Being an alchemist was an extremely rare talent. Once one became an alchemist, they were destined to be rich in the future. What's more, Lu Qingyue's talent in alchemy was very outstanding. She was recognized as a genius alchemist. There was no need for her to take this risk. Lu Huaiyan nodded slightly. Well, I've already informed the Academy. When they arrive outside the miasma, they will release a signal flare. You can go out after seeing the signal flare. It is safer this way. Now, there were still a large number of cultivators trapped outside the miasma, especially after the people of the four great families came. The people outside were even more eager to enter. If Lu Qinyue went out rashly, she would definitely be besieged by everyone. Only when the people of the Academy came to pick her up could her safety be guaranteed. Hearing this, Lu Qinyue nodded. I understand. You're very safe in this miasma. Fu Hongbo pursed his lips, looking a little relieved. Lu Huaiyan's gaze fell on the crowd. Seek yes, two. We understand. Everyone replied. In the ruins, even the presence of a teacher would not be able to protect them. The only thing they could rely on was themselves. As cultivators, they had to bear countless risks at all times. From the day they became cultivators, they had already been mentally prepared for it. Everyone once again entered a state of cultivation, but their moods had unknowingly become heavier. Chapter 489. Lu Qinyue's gentle and beautiful face revealed some hesitation and worry. Lu Qinyue gazed at Gong Shaoqing. Her beautiful eyes filled with reluctance. Gong Shaoqing nodded. You're right not to go. The risks are great. No one knows what the final result will be. Gong Dage, it is too risky to go in with our strength. Lu Qinyue's eyebrows wrinkled slightly. Jiyan, and the others are already in the pre-celestial realm. Regardless of the risks in this monument, it is a great risk to meet them. Once they take a fancy to the treasure you have seized, they will definitely snatch it. It is too dangerous. It is better to, without waiting for Lu Qinyue to finish her words. Gong Shaoqing had already interrupted her. Qinyue, you don't have to say more. I will not give up such a good opportunity. Lu Qinyue originally wanted to continue speaking, but after seeing Gong Shaoqing's resolute eyes, she swallowed the words that she didn't say out. Then, Gong Dage, I will wait for you at Kanglin College. Lu Qinyue's voice was gentle, and her beautiful eyes were full of tenderness and love. She has been stubbornly staying at Kanglin College to study, instead of directly studying alchemy in the Alchemist Guild like Wei Mei Dai. A large part of the reason was Gong Shaoqing. Only at Kanglin College could she always get along with Gong Shaoqing. She was afraid that after returning to Kanglin College, she would never see Gong Shaoqing again. That was something she could not bear at all. I will go back safely, Gong Shaoqing said slowly. Wifey, the monument will open tomorrow. Are you afraid? Di Beichun asked with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head and saw Di Beichun's bright smile like the stars in the sky, shining and dazzling. The cherry-red lips were slightly hooked, and Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. It is rare to have such a good opportunity. My heart is only excited. How can I be afraid? Fear was always a useless emotion. Since he had already decided to do it, there was no point in being afraid. Instead of wasting time on fear, it was better to calm down and think about how to face the upcoming events. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's calm expression, Di Beichun's eyes were filled with admiration. He smiled and said, My wife is really different from ordinary women. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Aren't you the same? If that's the case, aren't we a match made in heaven? Di Beichun asked, blinking his eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang cast a sidelong glance at Di Beichun. This guy could really relate everything to this. I think you'd better adjust your qi so that you'll have a better chance of winning tomorrow. You have to be more careful tomorrow. We'll go in together, okay? Di Beichun stared at Bailey Hongzhuang and put away his previous joking attitude. His eyes were full of seriousness. Seeing Di Beichun's undisguised worry and nervousness, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart moved and she nodded. Okay. Di Beichun smiled. His wife was not afraid of anything, but he was afraid of his wife getting hurt. For him, the treasures in the monument were secondary. Bailey Hongzhuang's safety was the most important. Not far away, Han Shilling saw this scene, and a trace of viciousness flashed in his eyes. Chapter 490. Han Shilling glanced at Jianer indifferently. and a touch of coldness appeared in his eyes. Does it have anything to do with you whether I like her or not? Feeling the indifference of Han Shieling, Jian did not care and sat down directly beside Han Shieling. I'm just feeling bad for you. This Bailey Hongzhuang doesn't have any strength, nor does she have any family background. She's just an ordinary commoner. Deep Beichen even gave up on you for such a woman. I really don't know what he is thinking. Jian curled her lips. In fact, this was also her own idea. Listening to Jian words, Han Shieling was still calm, as if what Jian said had nothing to do with him. Do you really intend to let Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichen be together? Jian saw that Han Shieling did not respond and could not help but ask. Han Shieling's eyes were cold, but there was a sarcastic smile on his mouth. I don't need you to feel bad for me. I'm sorry, I don't have the habit of being used as a gun. Jian's face changed slightly. Didn't they say that once a woman faced feelings, she would lose her mind? Why was Han Shieling so calm at this time? Han Shieling, you misunderstood me. I don't have this idea. Jian's smile was a bit embarrassed. Han Shieling's identity was not low. If she offended Han Shieling, it would not be good for her. I just don't like Bailey Hongzhuang. If you are interested, we can clean her up in this monument. Han Shieling chuckled. You don't like her? That's your business. I'm not interested. If there's nothing else, I'm going to cultivate. Seeing that Han Shieling's attitude was so cold and resolute, Ji Yun'er's face was a bit ugly. She did not understand why Han Shiling's reaction was so different from what she had imagined. Could it be that Han Shiling did not like Di Beichun? Impossible. As soon as this idea emerged, it was dispelled by Ji Yun'er. With her intuition as a woman, Han Shiling's feelings for Di Beichun were definitely not ordinary. Otherwise, with Han Shiling's arrogance, it was impossible for him to follow Di Beichun all these years. Unable to understand the reason for Han Shiling's attitude, Jian could only return to her place angrily, and her face could not hide her anger. Jian, was not an ordinary person, but she had been rejected by Bailey Hongzhuang and Han Shiling. She was really angry. Lin Yirou, Yin Ling Xian, and Huang Fu Hui looked at Han Shiling's frustrated appearance, and a gloating smile appeared in their eyes. Ji Yun'er's temper had always been bad, so there were not many people who really wanted to make friends with her. They and Ji Yun'er were just being polite. They were not even real friends. Ji Yun'er is really looking for trouble. Yin Ling Xian chuckled. Usually, Ji Yun'er is so arrogant, but now I'm afraid she can't be arrogant. She thought Han Shiling would be the same as her, but Han Shiling is not an ordinary person. Huang Fu Hui said with a smile. Lin Yirou showed a knowing smile to Huang Fu Hui. Her eyes were full of wisdom. Ji Yun'er is too simple. In my opinion, Han Shiling does not hate Bailey Hongzhuang, but with her arrogant temperament, she will not admit it. Chapter 491. Yin Ling Xian's eyes showed a touch of surprise. After thinking about it carefully, he found that what Lin Yirou said was very reasonable, and he couldn't help but admire her. Lin Yirou, I didn't expect you to see things so thoroughly. Lin Yirou's lips were slightly hooked, and she was not proud of Yin Ling Xian's words. It's not my business whether I see things thoroughly or not. It's just that the onlookers see things clearly. Yin Ling Xian took a deep look at Lin Yirou. At this moment, he found that Lin Yirou was not ordinary smart. In the past, Lin Yirou had always been quiet and did not speak often. In addition, Ji Yun'er had always been active, attracting everyone's attention, so he had never paid close attention to Lin Yirou. It wasn't until he heard Lin Yirou's words that he discovered Lin Yirou's intelligence. Sure enough, as an outstanding child of an aristocratic family, no one would be a simple character. Time passed in a blink of an eye. After a night, most of the ruins had been exposed to the ground, and the roar of the guardian beast was getting more and more intense. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the ruins in front of her, and there was a touch of amazement in her clear eyes. The ruins were comparable to the entire palace. The white building under the sun and the white miasma had an indescribable sense of sacredness. Facing the tall and majestic building, a sense of grandeur came over, making people feel awe. Outside the ruins, There was a faint wave-like prohibition that reflected colorful rays of light under the sun. It was very beautiful. However, among the cultivators present, no one was in the mood to pay attention to this beauty. What they cared about was the strength of this prohibition. This monument has been buried underground for so many years, but the prohibition is still so strong. The strength of the owner of this monument can be seen. Liu Huaiyan's face could not hide his admiration. Any cultivator who could leave an ancient monument was a strong person who had made a name for himself. In the face of such a strong person, his heart could not help but feel admiration. Just being able to see this monument made him feel lucky. If he could become such a strong person in the future, how happy would that be? With the passage of time, the energy of this prohibition has gradually dissipated. In the evening, this prohibition should completely disappear. Fu Hongbo's eyes flashed with a wise and far-sighted light. From yesterday to today, the power of the restriction was constantly dissipating. However, Liu Huaiyan's face did not feel happy because the restriction was about to disappear. Instead, it had a trace of heaviness. Once this restriction disappears, the guardian beast will run out. The guardian beast counterattack is very powerful. We have to be careful. Fu Hongbo nodded. His eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. He warned, "Wait until this barrier is about to dissipate. You should retreat. The level of this demonic beast is very high. You're not its opponent. If you get too close, you will easily be injured." I wonder what kind of demonic beast this guardian beast is. After so many years, its strength is still so strong. It should be the Qing Tian Mo alligator, Di Beiqian said slowly. Following Di Beiqian's words, everyone's expression changed. Qing Tian Mo alligator. That was a demonic beast that they could only run for their lives. Liu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo didn't doubt Di Beiqian's words. With Di Beiqian's background, he definitely had a lot of experience. Chapter 492. Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful and refined face flashed with a trace of surprise. She did not expect that Di Beiqian could judge the type of guardian beast just by the roar of the guardian beast. If Baisher had not told her, she would not have known that the monster inside was the Qing Tian Mo alligator. It seemed that Di Beiqian really knew a lot about monsters. This Qing Tian Mo alligator has been the monument for so many years and has absorbed a lot of miasma underground. I am afraid that its strength is far from being comparable to the average monster. Di Beiqian's eyes were full of wisdom. His master often took him to travel, so he also had a lot of knowledge. Many monsters were originally ordinary, but after some special encounters, they became different. The mutated monsters were the most powerful, so they must be careful. This Qing Tian Mo alligator has been trapped for so many years. I am afraid that the food in the monument has long been gone. It must be very hungry. Once it comes out, its beast nature will be great and its strength will be very terrifying. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. She knew a lot about ancient monuments. Once the monument was buried, no one knew when it would be exposed. Therefore, many of the guardian beasts of the monument would starve to death. Once the guardian beast survived, its strength would become very terrifying. Especially the moment the guardian beast came out of the monument, it would definitely become a beast and treat everyone as its food. Listening to the views of Bailey Hongzhuang, everyone nodded. It seemed that they really should stay away from the guardian beast. Let's retreat for a while. Sometimes these wicked beasts will run out before the enchantment completely dissipates. Just in case, we should retreat first. Bailey Hongzhuang said as she listened to the fluctuations coming from the monument. Everyone was a little surprised. According to their understanding, the guardian beast should not be able to come out before the restriction dissipated. Caution is the parent of safety. Let's retreat a little. Xia Zhiqing echoed. No one had any objections. It was the same whether they retreated early or late. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang retreat directly, Ji Yun's mocking voice sounded. No strength is no strength. This guardian beast has not come out yet. And you are already afraid to hide? You have guts. If you have the ability, then stand there and don't retreat. Bailey Hongzhuang mocked. Ji Er's eyes were full of pride. Born as a commoner, you have no common sense. Before the barrier dissipates, it is impossible for the guardian beast to come out. However, just when Ji Er's voice fell, Xia Jiqing and the others all widened their eyes and looked ahead with horror. You idiot, take a good look at what's behind you. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered and no longer paid attention to Ji Er, this idiot. She and Beichun quickly retreated hundreds of meters away. Ji Er listened to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, and her mouth was full of disdain. You want to deceive me with such a boring trick. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Miss, quickly retreat. At this time, the cultivators around Ji Er quickly shouted. Ji Er's face changed, and she looked back in surprise. She saw a huge Qing Tian Mo alligator running out of the monument. Chapter 493. Roar. The Qing Tian Mo alligator opened its bloody mouth and had already regarded Ji Er as its own food. When the cultivators of the Ji family saw this, they quickly pulled Ji Er, and Ji Er quickly fled to the back. Roar. The Qing Tian Mo alligator apparently did not expect that the food in its mouth would suddenly fly away. There was a burst of dissatisfaction in its heart. Its breath had already broken the trees next to it. The sudden appearance of the Qing Tian Mo alligator was beyond everyone's expectations. If everyone's eyes had not been locked on the monument before, they were afraid that the moment the Qing Tian Mo alligator appeared, many cultivators would have fallen. After Ji Er escaped, she stood in the distance with a pale face and gasped for breath. Her pretty face was full of horror. If it wasn't for the people of her family who pulled her, she was afraid that she would have become the food of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. How did this Qing Tian Mo alligator suddenly appear? Isn't it said that the guardian beasts will not appear before the ban is lifted? Yanling Xian's face was full of horror. If it wasn't for his quick reaction, even he didn't know what the consequences would be. Huang Fu Hui could not remain indifferent at the moment. There are very few guardian beasts in the monument. So many people don't know the situation. As he said this, everyone's eyes could not help but fall on Bailey Hongzhuang. None of them knew that the Qing Tian Mo alligator would suddenly appear, and Bailey Hongzhuang unexpectedly called the people of Tsanglan College to leave. Was there really such a coincidence in the world? Or did Bailey Hongzhuang have the opportunity to expect that the Qing Tian Mo alligator would appear in advance? So she reminded the students of Tsanglan College to stay away? There was a big question in everyone's heart. However, after careful consideration, everyone still felt that it was impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang to say such a thing by luck. It was likely that Bailey Hongzhuang had already expected it. When they thought of this, everyone was even more puzzled. They only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was an ordinary person, but now they could judge that she was not an ordinary person by Bailey Hongzhuang's actions. Hey, aren't you very powerful? Why is your face so pale now? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her chin slightly. Her mouth evoked an enchanting smile, mercilessly mocking Ji Er. Since Ji Er liked to take the initiative to find trouble with her, she didn't mind laughing at Ji Er at this time. Ji Er's face was very pale. At this moment, after listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, her face became even more livid. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's mockery made her unable to retaliate. You're just lucky. What are you so proud of? Ji Er thought for a moment and could only attribute Bailey Hongzhuang's decision to luck. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. You can look at it however you want, but you don't seem to have the guts to do it with your pale face. There was a smile on the faces of Xia Jiqing and others. Ji Er's previous words now seemed to be equivalent to slapping her own face. Not only did it not have the effect of ridiculing Hongzhuang, but it also made her a joke. Han Shilling looked at Ji Er indifferently, her eyes full of disgust, and said, "Idiot." Chapter 494. As soon as the Qing Tian Mo alligator appeared, its eyes were locked on the crowd. It opened its bloody mouth and salivated. It had been hungry in the ancient ruins for too long. It did not expect to see so much food as soon as it came out. It was really worth being happy. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at the Qing Tian Mo alligator in front of them. The Qing Tian Mo alligator was cyan, with a few faint black lines on its body. Its eyes were black, and its basketball-sized eyes exuded a cold light. Its body was covered with dense scales, which looked very terrifying. The Qing Tian Mo alligator was a very difficult monster to deal with. Its scales were tight and hard. Ordinary weapons could not penetrate its scales. Not only that, the Qing Tian Mo alligator was very powerful. Its giant tail was a powerful weapon. A sweep of its tail was as heavy as 1,000 pounds. Once hit by its tail, the cultivator was likely to vomit blood and die. At this moment, the Qing Tian Mo alligator was roaring and looking at the crowd. It seemed to be thinking about which one it should eat first. I didn't expect the guardian beast in the ancient ruins to be the Qing Tian Mo alligator. This is difficult to deal with. The leader of the Yin family frowned. It seems that this ancient ruins is much stronger than we thought. The strength of this Qing Tian Mo alligator has reached Yellow Realm Level 3. In my opinion, it is impossible to kill the Qing Tian Mo alligator with the strength of one family. Why don't we work together to kill this Qing Tian Mo alligator? The leader of the Ji family said. As the voice of the leader of the Ji family fell, everyone nodded. Okay, let's work together to kill this Qing Tian Mo alligator. In a flash, the four families and the Tiangang sect all rushed toward the Qing Tian Mo alligator. In the face of such a powerful monster, the younger generation was not its opponent at all. They could only rely on themselves to solve this problem. Lu Huayin and Fu Hongba looked at each other and nodded together. They immediately rushed toward the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Stay where you are. Don't come over. As soon as the voice entered the ears of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, Lu Huayin and Fu Hongba had disappeared in front of everyone. Since the four aristocratic families and the cultivators of Tiangang sect had already contributed, it would be inexcusable if they continued to stay where they were without doing anything. Since they came here, they wanted to find treasures in the ruins. If they didn't contribute at this moment, once the Qing Tian Mo alligator died, the four aristocratic families and the cultivators of Tiangang sect would join forces to prevent them from entering the ruins. They had no choice. Seeing the two mentors' actions, Gong Shaoqing and the others' gazes gradually changed. It was not easy for the two mentors. Roar! Seeing so many cultivators rushing towards it, the Qing Tian Mo alligator's eyes lit up with excitement. It was feeling very hungry, and the food had automatically delivered itself to its door. Ding! With a metallic sound, the long sword pierced the body of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. However, the swift and violent attack did not even pierce the scales of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. It only left a shallow white mark on the scales. Damn it! This Qing Tian Mo alligator's defense is so strong. Chapter 495. Ding ding ding. After the first cultivator tried, the attacks of other masters also fell on the body of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. The same attack still could not break the defense of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, and the giant tail of the Qing Tian Mo alligator kept sweeping. Everyone could only keep dodging and looking for opportunities to attack. In the face of everyone's attacks, the Qing Tian Mo alligator was very calm. This kind of attack was just a tickle on its body. Let's attack the same place. Only when we find a breakthrough will we have a chance. Lu Huayan said in a deep voice. Listening to Lu Huayan's words, the masters of the four aristocratic families and Tiangang sect nodded. This was indeed the only way so far. The only weakness of the Qing Tian Mo alligator was its abdomen. However, due to the short legs of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, coupled with the constantly biting head and constantly sweeping tail, they had no way to attack the abdomen of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, let alone turn it over. In this way, the way that Lu Huayan said had become the only way. Ding! Bang bang bang! After deciding on the attack method, everyone concentrated their attacks on the same area. The originally hard scales were also inevitably broken under the attacks of everyone. and blood flowed from the back of the Qing Tianmo alligator. The sudden pain stimulated the Qing Tianmo alligator. Its roar was sharper, and its attacks were more violent. Boom, boom, boom. Every time the Qing Tianmo alligator took a step, there was a huge sound on the ground, like an earthquake, which shocked people. With the fierce attack of the Qing Tianmo alligator, a group of cultivators was inevitably injured. Bang! A cultivator of the G family was directly swept by the giant tail of the Qing Tianmo alligator and flew out. The huge force caused a burning pain in his internal organs, and he directly spat out a mouthful of blood. Ah! Another scream came out. A cultivator's arm was directly bitten off by the Qing Tianmo alligator. Gudong! The Qing Tianmo alligator chewed twice and directly swallowed the cultivator's arm into its stomach. A rich yellow light flashed on the body of the Qing Tianmo alligator. As the wounds on the Qing Tianmo alligator increased, the injured cultivators also increased. I didn't expect the Huang realm monster to be so terrifying. Bai Junyu's face was shocked. He always knew that the Huang realm monster was very terrifying, but without seeing it with his own eyes, he couldn't feel how powerful it was. The strength of these cultivators was already very strong in his eyes, but in front of the Qing Tianmo alligator, they were still very weak. This was the terrifying power of the Xiantian realm. Will the two mentors be okay? Lu Qinyue's face was full of worry. The strength of the two mentors was not strong among everyone. Now, they were already injured. The corner of Lu Huayan's mouth was still bleeding. He had just suffered a heavy blow. In this situation, if he was not careful, he could lose his life here. I believe in the strength of the mentors. There shouldn't be any danger. Xia Jiqing said in a deep voice, her eyes staring at the situation inside, her heart full of worry. Dongfang Yu and Gong Shaoqing's faces were equally solemn. This Qing Tianmo alligator has already been injured by everyone's attacks. I believe it won't be able to last much longer. Chapter 496. With the voice of Bailey Hongzhuang falling, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at each other and understood each other's thoughts. The next moment, in front of everyone's stunned eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen rushed directly to the place where the Qing Tianmo alligator was located. What are they going to do? Xia Jiqing couldn't help but exclaim. The Qing Tianmo alligator was a Huang-level monster beast. With the strength of Bailey Hongzhuang, dealing with the Qing Tianmo alligator was tantamount to courting death. As soon as these words came out, everyone's eyes were fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Everyone was somewhat shocked. The masters of various forces had not yet been able to deal with the Qing Tianmo alligator. Could Bailey Hongzhuang really be able to deal with it? This Bailey Hongzhuang really likes to be in the limelight, really courting death. Ji Yun's eyes were full of sarcasm and viciousness. The scene that had just happened made her lose face in front of everyone. No matter what, she must get her face back. She was a dignified young lady of the Ji family. If she was so ridiculed by Bailey Hongzhuang, where would she put her face in the future? I didn't expect Di Beichen's strength and background to be so good, but his vision for a woman is so bad. Ji Yun's words revealed a bit of disdain. Di Beichen did not give her face in front of everyone. At this moment, she even hated Di Beichen. Di Beichen is too crazy. In this case, rushing over is no different from courting death. Huang Fuhui frowned. Even Lin Yiro, who had always seen through things, was somewhat puzzled at the moment. Did Di Beichen have a way to deal with the Qing Tianmo alligator? Judging from the current situation, although the Qing Tianmo alligator was injured, it was obviously still very strong. Once they rushed up, they would definitely be met with the Qing Tianmo alligator's desperate counterattack. This was definitely an inappropriate approach. Maybe the two of them are confident. Yinling Xian raised his eyebrows, looking a little unconcerned. To them, one less genius meant one less competition. It wasn't a bad thing. Han Shiling's face, which had remained calm from the beginning, changed slightly the moment he saw Di Beichen rush forward. Brother Di. Looking at the golden and white figures, she could not help but frown. She should have been the one beside Big Brother D. Others might not understand D. Baichin's strength, but she had known him for many years and knew him very well. Come to think of it, Big Brother D wanted to take this opportunity to get rid of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. D. Baichin also didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to rush up with him. However, after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's confident look, his lips curled into a faint smile. What the two of them wanted to do was not to confront the Qing Tian Mo alligator head-on, but to launch a sneak attack. You go left, I'll go right. Coming to the front of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, Bailey Hongzhuang said concisely. Okay, D. Baichin responded. The next moment, the two rushed to the two sides of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Lu Huaiyin and Fu Hongba saw Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly appear in such a situation, and their faces couldn't help but be filled with tension. Nonsense! What are the two of you doing here? Lu Huaiyin's voice was full of anger and worry. In this situation, even the two of them were in danger. Wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang completely adding to the chaos? The attack power of the Qing Tian Mo alligator was so terrifying that they couldn't protect Bailey Hongzhuang at all. Chapter 497. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Lu Huaiyin and Fu Hongba were both puzzled. In such a dangerous situation, the two did not have time to think too much. They only felt that D. Baichin and Bailey Hongzhuang were not impulsive people. Since they rushed out, they should have a plan in mind. Bailey Hongzhuang used shadow, shifting, and jumped on the back of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. After the Qing Tian Mo alligator felt that someone was rushing up, its whole body began to shake constantly. It just wanted to shake Bailey Hongzhuang off its back. Bailey Hongzhuang held the sword in her hand, and her eyes were fixed on the wound of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. The next moment, the sword in her hand suddenly stabbed out and did not hesitate to pierce the back of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Chi! A clear and subtle sound rang out. Bailey Hongzhuang's sword had been deeply stabbed. Roar! The sudden pain deeply stimulated the Qing Tian Mo alligator. The Qing Tian Mo alligator roared and went crazy. All of a sudden, the masters around the Qing Tian Mo alligator suffered and retreated. Once the Qing Tian Mo alligator went crazy, its fighting power was still very terrifying. Everyone looked at the entanglement between Bailey Hongzhuang and the Qing Tian Mo alligator in horror. No matter how the Qing Tian Mo alligator shook, Bailey Hongzhuang's figure was fixed on the body of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Not only that, Bailey Hongzhuang's sword was constantly stabbing the wound of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Blood was constantly flowing out and staining Bailey Hongzhuang's dress. Yin Ling Xian and the others, after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, there was a touch of horror in their eyes. Just climbing on the back of the Qing Tian Mo alligator already required a lot of courage, not to mention that Bailey Hongzhuang was in such a dangerous situation. My God! Hongzhuang is too strong, right? Xia Zhiqing opened her mouth wide and looked sluggish. She did not expect Hongzhuang to be so cruel. The Qing Tian Mo alligator was really unlucky this time. Bai Junyu swallowed a mouthful of saliva. If this scene did not clearly happen in front of him, he would not believe it. To deal with the Qing Tian Mo alligator with the cultivation of mysterious Ian middle stage, I am afraid that there is no second person other than Bailey Hongzhuang. No one else. Gong Xiaoqing and Dong Fangyu were both silent. They couldn't help but admit that Bailey Hongzhuang's idea was truly excellent. In this short period of time, the Qing Tian Mo alligator's injuries. Ji-Yun-S. Bailey Hongzhuang's S. Li. Combis to the Hongzhuang. By you, this Bailey Hongzhuang is really not simple. Huang Fu Hui chuckled. At this moment, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang, it really made people's eyes light up. There was a ripple in Han Shiling's clear eyes, and there was a faint flash of negative emotions. She had always been conceited. She could do what Bailey Hongzhuang had thought of, but she was too lazy to waste her time. But now that she felt the eyes of everyone, there was a feeling of displeasure spreading in her heart. If this kind of gaze fell on others, she might not care, but this person was Bailey Hongzhuang. It was different. Bang, bang, bang. The Qing Tian Mo alligator's giant tail swept wildly, and the ground was directly smashed into a deep pit under the wave of its giant tail. Bailey Hongzhuang's situation was also very dangerous, but every time she was able to escape danger after danger. Chapter 498. The speed of the Qing Tian Mo alligator was extremely fast. There was almost no sign, and the whole body turned over on the ground. Obviously, it wanted to squash the annoying guy behind it in this way. Bailey Hongzhuang's reaction speed was also extremely fast. Just at the moment when the Qing Tian Mo alligator turned over, she jumped down. However, before everyone could react from Bailey Hongzhuang's keen speed, a pale golden figure had already rushed to the abdomen of the Qing Tian Mo alligator with lightning speed. Everyone's eyes lit up. The biggest weakness of the Qing Tian Mo alligator was its abdomen. There was no defense on the white skin. At this moment, the Qing Tian Mo alligator showed its belly, which was undoubtedly the best state. Chi! A sharp sword light flashed by, and everyone only heard the sound of flesh being torn open. Then, the Qing Tian Mo alligator completely exploded. The power of the Huang realm burst out. After seeing this scene, Di Beichun and others did not dare to delay and quickly retreated. The Qing Tian Mo alligator's eyes were red. Everyone present was an opponent, and it attacked fiercely. This is the Qing Tian Mo alligator's desperate counterattack. Everyone run. No one knew who shouted. Only then did everyone react. They did not dare to delay any longer and quickly fled. The Qing Tian Mo alligator madly chased after everyone. The vigorous primordial energy attacked desperately. The surrounding trees fell down at a terrifying speed. Damn it, this Qing Tian Mo alligator is really terrible when it goes crazy. Yan Lingxian cursed as he fled. Di Beichun had already pulled Bailey Hongzhuang away at the moment when he jumped down from the Qing Tian Mo alligator. His attack had caused a fatal injury to the Qing Tian Mo alligator. With the strength of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, its reaction speed must be extremely fast, so he only had one chance. Whether it was successful or not, he could only leave at the first moment. Obviously, he succeeded. Pulling Bailey Hongzhuang with one hand and running wildly, Di Beichun had a brilliant smile on his face. My wife is indeed witty, and her strength is also incomparable to that of an ordinary mystic Ian cultivator. Bailey Hongzhuang's previous actions seemed simple, but it was not easy to succeed. On the contrary, it was very dangerous. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's performance amazed him. Even in such a dangerous situation, she did not show the slightest bit of panic. Her beautiful face was so calm that it was unbelievable. Your timing is also very accurate. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved slightly, smiling sweetly as she looked at Di Beichun. It seemed that their cooperation this time was pretty good. This Qing Tian Mo alligator shouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. Let's rest first. After fleeing for a distance, Di Beichun adjusted his slightly wrinkled clothes, looking relaxed and casual. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She could feel that the struggling movement of the Qing Tian Mo alligator in the distance was getting smaller and smaller. She believed that the strength of the Qing Tian Mo alligator had been exhausted. Hey, the Qing Tian Mo alligator is not moving anymore. Is it dead? Xia Zhiqing's eyes flashed with curiosity. The previous movement was so big that she only felt that the whole ground was trembling. If she didn't know, she would have thought that there was an earthquake. It should be, but let's not go over for the time being. Maybe the Qing Tian Mo alligator is not dead yet. Gong Xiaoqing said. Chapter 499. I have underestimated this Bailey Hongzhuang. With her mysterious Ian cultivation base, it is rare to see her have such courage. Yan Lingxian sighed and shook his head. Before, he just thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was quite courageous when dealing with Ji Yin. He did not expect her to be so courageous in the battle. Seeing that Yan Lingxian was so admiring of Bailey Hongzhuang, Ji Yin's eyes showed a touch of displeasure. and her words were full of jealousy. What's so great about it? Can't you do what you just did? Ji Yun snorted. We just think that such a thing is not worth our risk. As a child of an aristocratic family, their lives were the most important. When they did not need to take action, they would not hesitate to take action. Ji Yun, don't say that the grapes are sour when you can't eat them. Even if you were to do it, I am afraid that you would not do better than Bailey Hongzhuang. Lin Ro did not care about tearing apart Ji Yun's disguise. She was not like Ji Yun, who could not see others doing well. In fact, if Bailey Hongzhuang was also from a cultivation family, she believed that she would also be a figure of the younger generation. Lin Ro, what do you mean? Ji Yun took a step forward, her pretty face showing a touch of anger. Since yesterday, Lin Ro had been praising Bailey Hongzhuang from time to time, clearly taking the opportunity to satirize her. What do I mean? I'm just telling the truth. Lin Ro looked indifferent, facing Ji Yun's questioning. Ji Yun, you have to figure out who I am. Others are afraid of you, but I don't have to be afraid of you. Lin Ro said coldly. Her gentle and indifferent eyes also showed a touch of sternness. Han Shilling looked at the conflict between Ji Yun and Lin Ro, and he was a little surprised by Lin Ro's performance. It seemed that under Lin Ro's soft and weak appearance, there was a very strong heart. Ji Yun obviously did not expect Lin Ro to be against her, and her face could not help but turn ugly. I don't have time to deal with you now. After this trip to the ancient ruins is over, we will slowly settle this account. Up to you. I'll keep you company. Lin Ro raised an eyebrow and did not put Ji Yun's words in her heart. Master, that Qing Tian Mo alligator is dead. Baisher's soft voice sounded in Bailey Hongzhuang's mind. Then let's go now, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a serious look. Master, I want the demon crystal of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Baisher blinked his small eyes and looked longingly at Bailey Hongzhuang. Since the appearance of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, he had been coveting the demon crystal of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. The Qing Tian Mo alligator was a yellow realm demonic beast, and its demonic crystal was very rich in energy. Compared to the demonic crystal it usually ate, the demonic crystal was of a much higher grade. It was really a great supplement. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly taken aback. She had forgotten that she had a pet beast that would freeze at the sight of a demon crystal. The desire in those starry eyes was simply irresistible. I'll go get the demon crystal, Bailey Hongzhuang said in a deep voice. Di Baichen looked at the sudden change in Bailey Hongzhuang's expression, and his handsome eyes quietly filled with a trace of puzzlement. Wife, is there a problem? Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly, then reached out and pointed to the little guy in her arms. This little guy wants the demon crystal of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Chapter 500. The Beast King is still young. The demon crystal of the Qing Tian Mo alligator will be of great help to him. Let's go and get the demon crystal of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Di Baichen said slowly with a confident luster. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. She would not let go of anything that could help Baisher. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen no longer hesitated and quickly rushed to the place where the ruins were located. Master, the demon crystal of the Qing Tian Mo alligator is very valuable. I'm afraid that group of guys will not let you get the demon crystal so easily. Xiao Hei's eyes showed a touch of worry. She understood the thoughts of those guys very well. Even if the Qing Tian Mo alligator eventually died under the joint forces of her master and Di Baichen, because the strength of the Kangling College team was not strong, it would not be easy to get the demon crystal back from them. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed slightly. A flash of light flashed, like lightning, fierce and decisive. Since it is something I want, there is no reason for others to take it away. The cold voice was as domineering as ever. It was not easy to take something from Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang so domineering, Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai also flashed with excitement. If this group of guys obediently handed over the demon crystal, it would be fine. If they did not hand it over, the black-white double demons would let them see their power. Soon, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun returned to the front of the ruins. The originally flat ground was now a mess. Deep and shallow pits were all over the ground. It could be seen how terrifying the counterattack of the Qing Tian Mo alligator was. The Ji family's experts were now cutting the head of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Obviously, they wanted to take out the demon crystal. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang walked in front of Ji Jianbin. "This demon crystal is useful to me. If you don't mind, let me have it." As soon as he said that, the expressions of the cultivators present changed. Ji Jianbin glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang with a hesitant expression. The value of this Qing Tian Mo alligator's demon crystal was not low, but for the huge Ji family, it was nothing. Moreover, in the end, this Qing Tian Mo alligator did indeed die at the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun. Turning his gaze to Di Beichun, Ji Jianbin was even more certain of his thoughts. It was just a demon crystal. There was no need for him to offend Di Beichun of Tiangang sect for it. However, just as Ji Jianbin was about to nod his head, Ji Yun'er's disgusting voice was heard. "No, this Qing Tian Mo alligator's demon crystal belongs to our Ji family. Why should we give it to you?" Ji Yun'er raised her eyebrows and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. That fierce and proud look was clearly provocative. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes sharpened, like a knife piercing Ji Yun'er. "From the beginning to the end, you have not done anything. What qualifications do you have to intervene in the ownership of this demon crystal? What's more, so many experts present have participated in the killing of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Why do you say that this demon crystal belongs to your Ji family?" Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's series of questions, Ji Yun'er's face became livid. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang was still so arrogant. "I said that this demon crystal belongs to my Ji family. It's none of your business." Chapter 501. After the cultivators around saw Ji Yun'er, there was a touch of helplessness in their eyes. Although Jin was usually very fierce, she was not so unreasonable. They did not expect that after being repeatedly humiliated in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, she had completely become unreasonable. "What if I say that this monster crystal is mine?" The cold words were full of threats and despair, and Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a cold light. For Ji Yun'er, she was too lazy to pay attention to her. For this kind of person with princess syndrome, provoking her was tantamount to provoking an infinitely annoying big trouble. However, she did not want to find trouble, but Ji Yun'er took the initiative to find her. Not only did she provoke her again and again, but at this moment she was even more unreasonable. Even with her temperament, she could not help but become angry at this moment. Listening to the threats in Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ji Yun'er could not help but raise her eyes. But after seeing the pair of eyes full of cold and murderous intent, she was shocked. That pair of dark and cold eyes were emitting endless murderous intent at the moment. It was clear that Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was not as good as hers. But in the face of such murderous intent, she still felt terrified. The beautiful face was also stained with a trace of the blood of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, which added a trace of charming murderous intent to that perfect face. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was cold, and her eyes were like an eagle looking straight at Ji Yun'er, so that Ji Yun'er could not escape. The faces of Yanling Xian and the others became strange. It was reasonable to say that Ji Yun'er should be more imposing than Bailey Hongzhuang, but the situation in front of them was completely reversed. Bailey Hongzhuang's simple words had already forced Ji Yun'er to be speechless. This was too strange. Lu Huaiyin and Fu Hongbo looked at each other, and their faces could not hide their astonishment. This Bailey Hongzhuang's momentum is really strong, completely suppressing Ji Yun'er. Fu Hongbo's face was full of doubts. Who is Bailey Hongzhuang? Even the young miss of the general's estate can't possibly have such an imposing manner. Lu Huaiyin shook his head. He only felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was becoming more and more complicated. "I'll give you 3 seconds. Either you hand over the demon crystal, or you bear the consequences." Bailey Hongzhuang said the last 4 words one by one, letting everyone clearly feel the weight of these 4 words. She did not intend to waste more time on things outside the ancient ruins. Since Ji-Yun liked to find trouble, she did not mind teaching her a good lesson. There was a huge gap between the middle stage of the mysterious Ian realm and the Crimson realm. However, she also had many means other than cultivation. Ji-Yun was dumbfounded. She didn't understand how Bailey Hongzhuang could put so much pressure on her that it was difficult for her to refute. The corners of Di Beichen's mouth blossomed into a devilish smile, and those eyes that were as deep as the sea flickered with a little bit of appreciation. It seemed that his worries were a little unnecessary. His wife was never someone to be trifled with. Just her aura alone was enough to intimidate many people. 3. Bailey Hongzhuang raised 3 fingers, looking indifferent and cold. 2. Retracting 1 finger, Bailey Hongzhuang's look was still indifferent, as if she was simply counting down. However, everyone present looked at this scene, and their hearts were extremely uneasy. Chapter 502. Hongzhuang's momentum is really unstoppable. Xiao Zhiqing's face could not hide the excitement. She had long been uncomfortable with Ji-Yun's behavior. Now seeing Hongzhuang so domineering, she only felt a burst of joy in her heart. What's wrong with Ji-Yun? Why is she standing there without saying a word? Bai Junyu did not understand why Ji-Yun was now motionless, as if her soul had been taken away. You are not Ji-Yun. You can't feel what she is feeling now. Gong Xiaoqing's voice was slightly heavy. Bailey Hongzhuang's momentum is very strong, and it is completely on Ji-Yun's body, so Ji-Yun is under a lot of pressure. At this moment, Gong Xiaoqing was also admiring Bailey Hongzhuang. Previously, he felt that it was too suspicious for Bailey Hongzhuang to have such medical skills. Now it seems that Bailey Hongzhuang's background may be more complicated than he thought. How can Bailey Hongzhuang's momentum be so strong? If Yin Lingxian was just amazed by Bailey Hongzhuang's excellence before, now he had to face Bailey Hongzhuang. Because this kind of terrifying momentum, he could not do it at all. In his impression, only the head of the family would have such a terrifying momentum. Even if she did not say a word, she could make them feel great pressure. There were very few people who had this kind of momentum, and there were even fewer people who had this kind of momentum among young people. Bailey Hongzhuang was too abnormal. Huang Fuhui, Lin Yiro, and even Han Xiling did not say a word at the moment. If they had not faced Bailey Hongzhuang before, now they had to face it. 1. Bailey Hongzhuang finished reading the last number, and Ji-Yun breathed a sigh of relief. If she had not been warning herself not to agree, she was afraid that she would have agreed under the pressure. When she thought of that possibility, she felt terrible. It was undoubtedly showing weakness to Bailey Hongzhuang in front of everyone. That was something she could not accept at all. Even if I don't give you the demon crystal, what can you do? At this moment, she could no longer look down on Bailey Hongzhuang as before because everything that Bailey Hongzhuang showed was not simple. Nothing much. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slowly curved into an enchanting smile, like a blooming dachira flower, releasing a fatal beauty, but it gave people an indescribable feeling of strangeness in their hearts. If you don't give it to me now, you might beg to give it to me later. Her voice fell. Bailey Hongzhuang was too lazy to pay attention to Ji-Yun and went straight back to the team. However, no one saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had sprinkled the powder on Ji-Yun's body. As a qualified doctor, she was also very good at using poison. She was often able to sprinkle poison powder on others without anyone noticing. Everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's performance, and their hearts were all puzzled. Was Bailey Hongzhuang just scaring Ji-Yun? You want me to beg you? You're dreaming. Ji-Yun sneered. This Ji-Yun is really asking for a beating. Looking at her face, I want to beat her into a pig's head. Xiaohei waved her fists angrily. There were strange people every year, but this year there were especially many. Don't worry, Master will not let Ji-Yun have a good time. Chapter 503. Baisher's watery eyes flashed with a curious light. His master was never a simple character, and the things in her hands were even more strange. Whether it was Bailey Yuyin or Li Yuyue, They had both suffered a big setback in the hands of his master. He believed that this time, Ji Yun would not be any better. His master had always been very good to him. As long as it was something he needed, his master would definitely get it. He was not worried at all. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferently at the restrictions on the periphery of the monument. The light of this restriction was getting dimmer. She believed that in less than an hour, this restriction would completely disappear. Wifey, what did you do to Ji Yun? Di Beichen's long eyebrows were slanted, and his handsome eyes looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a smile. He was very clear about the character of his wifey. She was so calm, he was afraid that she was waiting to watch a good show. As for this kind of thing, it had never been related to his wifey. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled deeply and deliberately kept them in suspense. You wait and see. Ji Yun proudly put the monster crystal of the Qing Tian Mo alligator into her own Qingquan bag and sneered. You really think you're a great person. You are really not ashamed to talk big. Yanling Xian and the others looked at Ji Yun and Bailey Hongzhuang strangely. They always felt that things were not so simple, but they couldn't figure out where the problem was. I always feel that Bailey Hongzhuang must have done something. Yanling Xian frowned. However, the scene just now had happened in front of everyone. Nothing had happened at all. What can she do? Ji Yun sneered. There are so many people here. Did she do something that no one saw? It's just a bluff. Lin Yirou and the others looked at Ji Yun speechlessly. She really forgot the pain after the scar healed. Just now, she was still being oppressed by Bailey Hongzhuang's momentum, but now she was so proud. They didn't understand what she was thinking. However, shortly after Ji Yun finished her sarcasm, her face became strange. Not for any other reason, but because she suddenly felt a sharp pain coming from her body. How could this be? Ji Yun was puzzled. This kind of stinging pain seemed to come from the inside of the body. Io. Ji Yun couldn't help but cry out. The pain became more and more severe as time passed, gradually exceeding her tolerance. It hurts. Everyone only saw Ji Yun twisting and turning like a monkey, and their faces were filled with surprise. Young miss, what's wrong? The Ji family cultivator could not help but ask with concern after seeing this scene. It hurts. It hurts. Ji Yun shouted, and her tone became more anxious. Why does it hurt all of a sudden? The Ji family cultivators were stunned, but their gazes involuntarily turned to Bailey Hongzhuang, who was not far away. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang had said that she would let the young miss beg her. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the ruins indifferently. Her eyes did not stay on Ji Yun for a second, as if everything that happened had nothing to do with her. Damn it, it really hurts. I can't stand it. Ji Yun only felt pain all over her body, as if she was being pricked by needles. The pain penetrated into every pore, leaving her no chance to breathe. Chapter 504. Under the assault of waves of severe pain, Ji Yun could no longer bear it. The pain was getting more and more intense, and there was a piercing pain in her internal organs. Even though she had experienced a lot of pain in the process of cultivation, it was nothing compared to the pain she was experiencing at the moment. Ji Yun couldn't bear it and rolled on the ground. Her luxurious brocade dress had been stained with dust, and her hair looked even more disheveled and messy. If it were any other time, Ji Yun would naturally not be able to bear such an image. But at the moment, she had completely forgotten everything. She only hoped that the pain could be reduced a little. Lin Yirou and the others were first surprised by Ji Yun's reaction, and then after seeing Ji Yun's pale face and cold sweat, they had already understood that this must be the work of Bailey Hongzhuang. Ji Yun is really like a monkey being teased today. Lin Yirou's eyes were filled with disdain. From the beginning to the end, Ji Yun was looking for trouble with Bailey Hongzhuang, but the final result was that she was defeated by Bailey Hongzhuang. Speaking of which, this Ji Yun was really sad. Yanling Xian nodded in agreement. This time, Ji Yun is really in trouble. This Bailey Hongzhuang, although her cultivation base is not strong enough, her means are very strange and cannot be ignored. Huang Fu Hui at this moment could no longer treat Bailey Hongzhuang as an ordinary person with no background, because her means even made him feel a little scared. Sure enough, The woman Di Beichen liked was definitely not an ordinary person. If they underestimated Bailey Hongzhuang, it was tantamount to looking for trouble. For example, the current Ji Yun-er was like this. Han Shilling frowned. From this situation, Ji Yun-er's situation was definitely caused by Bailey Hongzhuang. However, just now, she did not notice any movement from Bailey Hongzhuang. Was it that Bailey Hongzhuang even deceived her? At the thought of this, Han Shiling's heart was a little more vigilant. This was the first time she felt a threat from Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang, what have you done to me? Ji Yun-er endured the pain and asked Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows, her expression calm and composed. Miss Ji, don't accuse me wrongly. I didn't do anything in front of everyone. I don't believe it. You must have done something. Ji Yun-er's eyes were full of viciousness, and her pretty face had become hideous and distorted. Hurry up and let me recover, or I won't let you go. Looking at Ji Yun-er's fierce appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang was still calm, as if everything Ji Yun said had nothing to do with her. Lady Ji's words are really interesting. It's as if you'll let me go now that your body no longer hurts. As soon as this remark came out, everyone was stunned, and many people couldn't help but laugh. Bailey Hongzhuang was right. Even if she helped Ji Yun relieve the pain, Ji Yun would still not let her go. In this case, why should she help Ji Yun kill this hateful woman? Xiaohei said fiercely. This kind of person was in need of a lesson. If she didn't teach her a good lesson, she wouldn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. She deserves to die from the pain. Xiao Bai's face was full of pride. Before, Ji Yun was so arrogant, but now she was at her wit's end. Chapter 505. Hearing this, there was a touch of excitement in Baisher's eyes. As long as he got the monster crystal of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, his strength could break through. Thinking of this, Baisher couldn't help but rub his hands. Once his strength broke through, he would help his master fight. Looking at Ji Yun-er's appearance, it should be very painful. Xia Jiqing looked at Ji Yun-er, who was rolling on the ground. She was originally fierce, but under such pain, even her voice became small. Bai Junya nodded. It must be very painful, otherwise she would not have become like this. The next moment, Xia Jiqing's mouth opened into a bright smile like a flower. Haha, seeing her in so much pain, I feel particularly happy. Bai Junya was slightly stunned. Xia Jiqing's reaction was completely beyond his expectations. But in fact, he also felt that this was completely Ji Yun-er's own fault. Hongzhuang is really good. This kind of annoying guy should be taught a good lesson. Xia Jiqing smiled. She did not have the ability of Hongzhuang, but just watching from the side, she already felt very happy. The background of this Ji Yun-er is not weak. Bailey Hongzhuang offended Ji Yun-er like this. I am afraid that she will be strongly retaliated by Ji Yun-er in the future. Unlike what Xia Jiqing thought, Lu Huayan's eyes were full of worry. This time, the Ji family only came to the ancient ruins to gain experience. They did not bring many people with them, so everyone may not feel much. However, he knew how terrifying the ability of the Ji family was. As long as Ji Yun-er went back and wanted to retaliate against Bailey Hongzhuang, then Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely fall in endless trouble. This matter cannot be blamed on Bailey Hongzhuang. With the existence of Di Beichen, it is impossible for Ji Yun-er to let go of Bailey Hongzhuang. These grievances cannot be resolved. Fu Hongbo's deep voice was somewhat helpless as he shook his head. The situation had already been decided. No matter what Bailey Hongzhuang did, this enmity had already been formed. Since this result had been doomed, Bailey Hongzhuang naturally did not need to be afraid. It was better to teach Ji Yun a lesson so that she could vent her anger. I didn't expect that Hongzhuang is not only good at medicine, but also good at dealing with people. Zhang Yunfeng's pretty face was filled with emotion. At this moment, she was extremely impressed by Bailey Hongzhuang. Although a doctor's status in the Shengxian continent could not be compared to an alchemist, offending a doctor would not end well. Bailey Hongzhuang, did you poison me? Ji Yun-er's eyes widened. Her face was pale, and the veins on her temples were protruding. At the same time, the cultivators from the Ji family glared at Bailey Hongzhuang. Miss Bailey, if you don't hand over the antidote, then don't blame us for being impolite, the G family cultivator said in a deep voice. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. This is really interesting. I didn't expect the G family to like to pour dirty water on others. Just now, in front of everyone, did you see with your own eyes that I used poison? You have to have real evidence to do things. It is too unfair for you to accuse people like this. Take her down for me, Ji Yun said angrily. In her heart, she could not wait to skin Bailey Hongzhuang. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang fell in her hands, she would never let Bailey Hongzhuang have an easy time. Chapter 506. Who dares? Just as the cultivators of Ji family were preparing to attack Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen's voice suddenly sounded. The overbearing voice was full of cold and murderous intent. His handsome and unparalleled face was covered with frost. His deep eyes were like arrows, shooting straight at the cultivators of Ji family. Seeing Di Beichen like this, the faces of the cultivators of Ji family were constantly changing. They all knew the status of Di Beichen very well. In the future, he was very likely to become the heir of Tian Gangzong. If they offended Di Beichen, such a potential heir, just for Bailey Hongzhuang, it was undoubtedly a very bad deal. What's more, they also knew that from the beginning to the end, it was Ji Yun who was provoking the conflict. If Ji Yun had not been looking for trouble with Bailey Hongzhuang would not treat her like this. However, Bailey Hongzhuang put Ji Yun in such a situation, they had to act. Seeing that Di Beichen wanted to protect Bailey Hongzhuang, Ji Yun's face turned ugly. Di Gongzi, I have known you for so many years. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang is treating me like this, you still want to protect her? Ji Yun's voice was full of anger and paranoia. She did not believe that Di Beichen would rather offend Ji family to protect Bailey Hongzhuang. Han Shilling did not know when he had come to Di Beichen's side. His elegant lotus-like face showed a little worry. Di Dage, you should know the identity of Ji Yun. Isn't this too impulsive? Seeing Han Shilling and Di Beichen whispering, Xia Zhiqing and the others' faces changed. Di Beichen would not give up Bailey Hongzhuang, right? Although they weren't disciples of aristocratic families or sects, they were still very familiar with the way they prioritized benefits. If Di Beichen dares to give up on Hongzhuang, I will not let him off. Dongfang Yu quietly clenched his fists. In front of so many cultivators with status, his words carried little weight. However, as long as he was here, he would absolutely not let anyone harm Bailey Hongzhuang. Lu Qingyue looked at Dongfang Yu's expression and felt an indescribable feeling in her heart. He couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him. All the conflicts that were happening now were caused by Bailey Hongzhuang, but Bailey Hongzhuang acted as if it had nothing to do with her and was indifferent. I know what I'm doing. Di Beichen responded faintly and then raised his voice. Hongzhuang is my wife. If you want to deal with her, you must first pass through me. Di Beichen stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and had already shown his attitude with his actions. Han Shilling's face changed slightly. She didn't expect that under her advice, Di Beichen would still be unmoved. In just a short span of 3 years, her words no longer had any weight in Di Beichen's heart. You. Ji Yun was furious, and her fierce and vicious eyes looked directly at Bailey Hongzhuang. If eyes could kill, she was afraid that Bailey Hongzhuang would have died many times. If you dare to do anything to me, you won't live. Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips were slightly opened, and the warm and indifferent words came out of her mouth, as if everything had nothing to do with her. However, the words that came out made Ji Yun's face suddenly change. Bailey Hongzhuang, you still don't admit that you poisoned her. There is no proof. Why do you say that I poisoned her? Chapter 507. If you didn't poison me, how could you say that if I killed you, I wouldn't be able to live? Ji Yun gritted her teeth, and her eyes were as big as copper bells. If it was normal, such an expression would be extremely powerful. However, under the effect of the severe pain, she was barely able to say a word. As for the power, it did not exist at all. Cold sweat had soaked her clothes, and she really had a feeling that death was better than living. I am a doctor. How can I see that there is a problem with your current situation? Bailey Hongzhuang looked calm and did not show the slightest panic. Her serious appearance could not find the slightest trace of concealment. You are a doctor? Ji Yun sneered. Do you think all of us here are fools? Hongzhuang is a doctor, but she's also a doctor with superb medical skills. Xia Zhiqing testified. Not only Xia Zhiqing, but Lu Huaiyan and others also nodded. Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were something they had all seen. It was very good and not comparable to ordinary doctors. Originally, everyone did not put Bailey Hongzhuang's words in their hearts. But at this moment, after seeing the mentors of the Tsanglan College nodding in agreement, they could not help but wonder. So, was it possible that Bailey Hongzhuang was really a doctor? You say you're a doctor, are you? Ji Yun sneered. You're all in the same group. Naturally, you are all helping Bailey Hongzhuang. What's so strange about that? Miss Ji, what you said is wrong. Lu Huaiyan took a step forward. His handsome face was a bit serious. As a mentor of the Tsanglan College, how can I lie about this kind of thing? We can enter this miasma because of the detoxification Dan developed by Hongzhuang. Xia Zhiqing followed. With Xia Zhiqing's voice falling, the faces of Lin Yiro and other cultivators all changed. They all knew how toxic this miasma was. If it were not for their family, they would not have been able to successfully enter the miasma. Even so, the number of detoxification Dan they had was not many. It was precisely because of this that not many people from each faction came. Otherwise, they could have sent more cultivators. After all, no one would complain about having too many treasures. Since Bailey Hongzhuang was able to develop an antidote for the miasma, it could be seen how exquisite Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were. I was wondering how they could successfully pass through the miasma. So it was the antidote concocted by Bailey Hongzhuang. Huang Fu Hui couldn't help but sigh. Lin Yiro's eyes flashed with a bright light. A doctor with such superb medical skills, his identity is not simple. As a cultivator, one's family background was naturally extremely important, but alchemists and doctors relied entirely on their own abilities. The fact that Bailey Hongzhuang was able to develop this antidote proved that her medical skills were not simple. Once this news spread, it would be enough for many families to extend an olive branch to Bailey Hongzhuang. So I can understand why Di Beichun likes Bailey Hongzhuang. A doctor with superb medical skills is also a great character. Yan Lingxian's face showed a touch of understanding. With such an identity, the value of Bailey Hongzhuang was completely different. You have been poisoned for a long time, but the other party made the poison take a few days to break out in order to get rid of it. Chapter 508. Nonsense, it's impossible. Ji Yun said coldly. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged her shoulders. Believe it or not, that's your business, but then you will be in more and more pain, and eventually die of bleeding from the 7 orifices. Gee, it seems that you are really annoying. The other party wants you to be tortured to death. Bailey Hongzhuang's posture was lazy, and there was a bit of ridicule in her words, but she was not worried about Ji Yun situation. Master, what are you going to do? Xiao He asked in confusion. Others did not know, but with its understanding of its master, this kind of strange poison could only be developed by its master. Fool her. Bailey Hongzhuang raised an eyebrow, and her beautiful eyes flashed a sly light like a fox. Why do you want to fool her? Xiao He had some doubts. Now that Ji Yun life was completely in their hands, there was no need to fool her. Bailey Hongzhuang blinked, and her eyes were filled with wisdom. I want her to beg me to accept the monster crystal of the Qing Tian Mo alligator and give it to me gratefully. With her current strength, it was not enough to compete with the Ji family, so she could not let Ji Yun die like this. What's more, with Ji Yun character, she would definitely try to kill herself after going back. Therefore, she must think of a way so that Ji Yun could not do it openly. Sure enough, listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's confident and certain judgment, Ji Yun could not help but wonder. In the Ji family, there were quite a few disciples who were similar in strength to her, and there were also many who were quite competitive. Normally, There were even more people who fought openly and covertly. She was not unfamiliar with the trick of poisoning, and if someone used this trick on her, it was not impossible. For a while, Ji-Er's mind was full of thoughts, and she could not be sure. The eyes of Lin, Yi-Ro, and the others were also flashing with thoughts. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were so certain that they could not help but doubt it. Maybe someone really wanted to kill Ji-Er in such a way. It happened that Ji-Er was outside. Once she died, no one would suspect the other party. Bailey Hongzhuang, give me the antidote. Ji-Er had no time to think about other things at the moment. The pain in her body almost made her collapse, and her whole person fell into a weak state. If this continued, she would faint. Why should I detoxify you? Bailey Hongzhuang crossed her arms and looked at Ji-Er proudly. She and Ji-Er were neither relatives nor friends. On the contrary, they had a lot of hatred. Why should she help Ji-Er? Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ji-Er was going crazy. This woman is really hateful. Di Beichen's eyes were filled with a smile of appreciation. His wife was truly intelligent. The original tricky situation had been completely changed in a few words, and even Ji-Er had become the party that begged for help. With just a change, the situation has been completely different. The lady may even become the benefactor of Ji-Er. Miss Bailey, please help detoxify our young lady. The head of the Ji family asked. Although he was not a doctor, he could see that Ji-Er's situation was very bad. What Bailey Hongzhuang said was likely to be true. If this continues, Ji-Er may die here. Chapter 509. Listening to the words of Bailey Hongzhuang, the faces of the Ji family members were somewhat ugly. The contradiction between Bailey Hongzhuang and Ji-Er had developed to the point of no return. At this moment, they even asked Bailey Hongzhuang for help. It was too embarrassing. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ji-Er almost fainted. She couldn't help but think of Bailey Hongzhuang's words. She would beg Bailey Hongzhuang to accept the monster crystal of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. She did not expect that it would actually happen now. Could it be any more shameful? Was Ji-Er's face going to be completely lost today? Miss Bailey, the monster crystal of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. How about we give it to you? The cultivators of the Ji family asked tentatively. This monster crystal was originally mine, but it was robbed by you. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent and unmoved, but the meaning of her words was already clear. Profiteer, master is definitely a profiteer, Xiaohei said with emotion. It really felt that the Ji family members were being sold by their master and were still counting money for their master. First, she poisoned the other party, then let the other party beg her to accept the treasure and finally thank her for saving their lives. Their master was really good at calculating. Sure enough, she is our master. I really admire her. Xiaobai was excited. Looking at Ji-Er's angry appearance, it really felt very happy. Baisher's eyes were shining with little stars. Its monster crystal was about to enter its stomach. Haha. Bailey Hongzhuang, you are clearly trying to take advantage of me. Is it so easy to take advantage of Ji-Er? Ji-Er was depressed to the extreme. For the first time, she regretted it so much. If she knew that she would end up in such a situation, she would never take the initiative to provoke Bailey Hongzhuang. Absolutely not. But now it was too late. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. I didn't say that I wanted to take advantage of you. The reward I need is extremely high. If you're not willing to give it, I am not willing to take it. Her voice fell. Bailey Hongzhuang was too lazy to look at Ji-Er and sat on the ground. You are such an annoying fellow. Even if I save you now, there will be others who will want your life sooner or later. What a waste of my energy. Act. Keep pretending. Ji-Er screamed crazily in her heart, but she couldn't say anything. Now Bailey Hongzhuang had already eaten her. The cultivators of the Ji family were also speechless at the moment. Ji-Er was really a hindrance. Originally, Bailey Hongzhuang would have to pay a price. Now, after Ji-Er's interference, the price would be even greater. Miss Bailey, I still have some valuable medicinal herbs here. I wonder if you can help save our young miss? Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent and arrogant. With your Mrs. attitude, I won't do anything. Miss Bailey, I still have some money here. You could buy some things you want. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the black gold card faintly, still unmoved. Miss Bailey, I still have some monster crystals and medicinal pills. The cultivators of the G family continue to stack the rewards, and the richness of the rewards had shocked the eyes of Xia Zhiqing and others. So many treasures. Hongzhuang is still indifferent. Xia Zhiqing's eyes were full of astonishment. In the blink of an eye, Hongzhuang had made a lot of money. Chapter 510. With Bailey Hongzhuang's indifference, the faces of the cultivators of G family became ugly. They had paid a lot of rewards. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly said, even if I promise to help, I have to see if Miss G is willing. Ji Yun looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with resentment. For the first time, she hated a woman so much. It was really abominable. Mississippi. The experts of G family looked at Ji Yun helplessly and motioned Jin to bow her head. Ji Yun turned her head very stubbornly. If she bowed her head today, she would not be qualified to look up in front of Bailey Hongzhuang in this life. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang pushed back all the things handed over by the cultivators of G family, with a faint smile on her lips. This life-saving treatment also depends on whether there is fate. I don't want to do things too much. Since Miss G has such an attitude, I will not treat her again. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang directly closed her eyes and adjusted her breathing, waiting for the restriction to completely disappear. She knew the poison she had configured herself. If it was not because her current strength was not strong enough, she would not pay attention to Ji Yun. The atmosphere was in a deadlock for a moment. Ji Yun did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so decisive, directly sending everything back. Isn't it said that the children of aristocratic families are very smart? Why do I feel that this Ji Yun is not stupid? Xia Zhiqing frowned. She really couldn't understand. Wasn't Ji Yun asking for trouble? Miss, the face of the cultivator of G family became extremely ugly. He always knew the temper of his miss, but it was not the right time to lose her temper. Since she was asking for help, she should not show her face. As the saying goes, 10 years is not too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Could it be that Ji Yun could not even understand this? Thinking of this, the man could not help but feel disappointed. He suddenly felt that he was standing on the wrong side of Ji Yun. With this kind of IQ, it would not be easy to obtain a certain status in the G family in the future. Ji Yun's face was livid. She had been completely blinded by anger. Ji Yun had lived for more than 10 years. When had she ever been so compromised? Suddenly, Ji Yun felt a warm flow from the tip of her nose. She reached out and wiped it. She found that black blood had flowed out from the tip of her nose. As Bailey Hongzhuang said, it was a sign of poisoning. Ji Yun couldn't help but scream. When she thought of what Bailey Hongzhuang said about bleeding to death, she was even more scared. The pain intensified, and more blood flowed out of her nose. I don't want to die. Ji Yun looked confused. I don't want to die. Her status was so noble, and her days were so comfortable. How could she die just like that? Ji Yun looked up, and her eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. She immediately shouted to Bailey Hongzhuang, I don't want to die. However, Bailey Hongzhuang only responded to Ji Yun with an indifferent look. Bailey Hongzhuang did not even frown, as if she did not hear it. Ji Yun was really scared at the moment. She knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was her only hope to survive. She immediately crawled directly to Bailey Hongzhuang. She grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's trousers and shouted, Save me! Save me! I beg you to save me! Chapter 511. Seeing this scene, the eyes of Yin Ling Xian and the others became complicated. Things had evolved to this point because of Ji Yun. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang obviously did not want to make the situation too stiff. As long as Ji Yun bowed her head, all this would have been solved. However, Ji Yun refused and insisted on making it look so miserable. However, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly changed from the previous weakness to the current strength, which could not help but make them feel cold. This Bailey Hongzhuang is definitely not a simple character. It is better not to offend her. Lin Yirou's eyes flashed with insight. So far, they did not know if this poison was from Bailey Hongzhuang or someone else. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's means were absolutely amazing. Huang Fu Hui nodded in agreement. She is very intelligent. Among all of us, her strength is the weakest, but she has everything in her hands. It is not surprising that Ji Yun was defeated by her. Yan Lingxian shrank his neck. Fortunately, there was Ji Yun as a touchstone. Otherwise, after he offended Bailey Hongzhuang, he was afraid that his situation would not be better than Ji Yun. This inexplicable change was really chilling. He did not forget that when the Ji family raised their swords against Bailey Hongzhuang did not care about it. Even with the relationship with Di Beichun, Bailey Hongzhuang was still calm and scary. That was before. Now, I'm not going to make a move. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold, and her deep eyes flashed with a cold and resolute light, making people unable to see any hope. Ji Yun only felt that the strength in her body was getting weaker and weaker, and a sense of despair shrouded her. Originally, she was just skeptical and did not believe that she would really die. However, now she no longer doubted it. I beg you, I will never go against you again. Help me. Ji Yun cried. The cultivators from the Ji family also pleaded. Miss Bailey, please save our young Mississippi. We will definitely remember this favor in our hearts. If you need us in the future, we will definitely not refuse. The moment these words came out, everyone's expression changed once more. A favor from the Ji clan was a very amazing thing. Compared to all the treasures he had taken out before, the Ji clan's kindness was far greater. Lu Huaiyin and Fu Hongbao's eyes were filled with disbelief. The situation had changed too quickly. It was really hard for them to accept. I really admire Bailey Hongzhuang's methods. Lu Huaiyin smiled and sighed. Back then, he and Fu Hongbao were completely led by Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang made a big profit this time. Di Gongzi, you have known our young miss for many years. Please help our young Mississippi. Di Beichun pondered for a moment and then walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. At an angle where everyone could not see, he winked at Bailey Hongzhuang. His purpose had been achieved. He could make a move. Wife, I have known Miss Ji for many years. Please help to cure her. Di Beichun said slowly. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked deeply at Di Beichun, and there was a hint of hesitation between her eyebrows. She nodded and said, Okay. Ji Yun's eyes flashed with excitement, and the cultivators of the Ji family were relieved. Finally, Ji Yun would not lose her life. Thank you, thank you. Chapter 512. That's awesome. Xiaohei excitedly gave a thumbs up. Master's ability to reverse black and white was really powerful. Ji Yun was now so grateful that it was exactly the same as what Master wanted to achieve. In this way, the cultivators of Ji family would thank Master, and Ji Yun would at least stop for a while. Even Master used such means to deter others. Master is too two-faced. Xiaobai sighed. This time they really made a lot of money. Di Beichen's eyes were full of smiles. His wife was really a cunning little fox. She had taken advantage of him and was still acting like a well-behaved child. In his eyes, she was not just a little cute. In that case, I will reluctantly help you treat it. Bailey Hongzhuang said with a lack of interest. It was as if she was looking at Di Beichun to help Ji Yun. Therefore, Ji Yun and others were more and more grateful to Di Beichun. Bailey Hongzhuang directly took out a silver needle and pierced it into Ji Yun's acupoints quickly and accurately. Seeing this scene, except for the cultivators of Songlan College and Di Beichun, other people's faces were full of doubts. They had never seen such a strange treatment method. However, after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, Han Shiling's eyes suddenly narrowed, and his original indifferent look changed a bit. How is this possible? Han Shiling was stunned. What kind of treatment is this? How come I have never seen it before? Yan Lingxian's heart was full of doubts. In his impression, he had never heard a doctor mention such a method. Lin Yiro didn't know when she had frowned, and her eyes were fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Why do I feel that this method is a bit familiar? I also feel the same way. Huang Fu Hui nodded in agreement. He was sure that he had heard of it, but he couldn't remember it for a while. Suddenly, Lin Yiro and Huang Fu Hui looked at each other. Their expressions were no different from seeing a ghost. Yin Ling Xian also noticed the change in their expressions and couldn't help but ask, "Why do you have such expressions? Do you already know what Bailey Hongzhuang is doing?" "Acupuncture." Lin Yiro sighed. "Of acupuncture?" Yin Ling Xian raised his voice. Acupuncture was a long-lost powerful treatment method, and he had learned about it. However, this method had disappeared for many years. Only doctors would be sad about the loss of this technique. If Lin Yiro had not said it, he would not have associated Bailey Hongzhuang's technique with a long-lost acupuncture technique. Acupuncture? The expressions of the people from the 4 aristocratic families and the Tiangang sect all changed. When they looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again, their eyes were filled with astonishment. Upon closer inspection, they realized that Bailey Hongzhuang's technique was very similar to acupuncture. Hasn't acupuncture been lost for many years? How could it appear again? Yes, even if it appears again, it can't appear in the hands of a young girl. Maybe it's true. This girl's medical skills are very good. If not, how could she develop a detoxification pill to deal with this miasma? Chapter 513. Everyone was bewildered as they watched Bailey Hongzhuang make her move, their minds constantly wondering if their thoughts were true. "Miss Bailey, don't you have a detoxification pill?" The cultivators of Ji family asked aloud. They thought that as long as Bailey Hongzhuang gave them a detoxification pill, the problem could be solved. Now it seemed that the situation was much more complicated. "I am not a prophet. How can I have a detoxification pill?" Bailey Hongzhuang's rhetorical question made the cultivators of Ji family look stunned. So far, they did not know whether this poison was put by Bailey Hongzhuang or not. This time, they had fallen into the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang. However, when everyone saw the sweat on Bailey Hongzhuang's forehead and the gradually pale face, their expressions changed. If this poison was really put by Bailey Hongzhuang did not have to work hard at all. What's more, they would enter the ancient monument later. Was Bailey Hongzhuang not asking for trouble? Was it really someone else who put the poison? At the thought of this, Ji and and the cultivators of Ji family became ugly. They had been very careful in the family, but they did not expect to be set up by someone else. They must investigate this matter carefully when they go back. "Master, in order to detoxify this annoying guy, it is not worth it for you to do this." Xiao Bai's eyes were full of worry. Compared with the inheritance of the ancient monument, Ji family's kindness was nothing at all. Xiao He was also worried. Usually, with Master's temperament, she would not make a losing deal. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled and explained, "Don't worry, I am just pretending." Long before the poison was applied, she had already thought about everything. The detoxification was naturally not too complicated. The reason why she looked like this was just to deceive Ji Yun, and the others. She was a doctor, so it was not a problem for her to make her face look a little paler through some means. Xiao He and Xiao Bai were speechless for a while. Master's means were really beyond their imagination. Her acting skills were truly extraordinary. Inexplicably, they began to sympathize with the group of deceived cultivators of the Ji family. They were afraid that they were now beginning to think about who poisoned Ji and Even for someone as wise as Di Beichun, after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude, his handsome eyes revealed a look of worry. When Hongzhuang treated her in the past, she knew the extent of Hongzhuang's collapse. If Hongzhuang also collapsed now, it would be bad. As Bailey Hongzhuang released Ji and poisonous blood, she took back the silver needle and said, "It's done." Hearing this, Ji and was overjoyed. She almost lost her life. But when she turned around, she saw Bailey Hongzhuang's pale face. She couldn't say the words she wanted to say. Was it really the people of the family who harmed her? Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance did not seem to be fake. What's more, Bailey Hongzhuang did save her life. If she treated Bailey Hongzhuang with the same attitude as before, she was afraid that everyone would look down on her. Thank you. Ji Yun stood up and walked away with a very unnatural look on her face. Right now, her feelings were so complicated that no one could understand them other than herself.